hidden for 20 years, and exposed by Scarlet Witch. This video is purely for entertainment, and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting, and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Hidden Strength for a Year. Grandpa 039's ability. Uncle Bai Xi, your chicken legs are delicious. A little lolly with soft long hair, holding a large chicken leg in her hand, snorted. Next to him, a tomboy who looked like a little boy with dyed blue hair immediately snatched the drumstick from her hand. Yelena, you are still young, eat less. After grabbing the chicken legs, she ran to the obstacle next to her while talking. Natasha Romanoff, give it back to me, you bitch, Yelena shouted and chased after him. But Natasha Romanoff was older than her, and Yelena's short legs couldn't catch up, and she fell over herself. Yelena, who was like a little princess, suddenly became disheartened and cried out with a whimper, Uncle Bai Xi, Natasha Romanoff bullied me slightly. You should go to Melina. Uncle Bai Xi won't help you. Natasha Romanoff grimaced in front of her. Bai Xi, who they called Uncle, walked out with a helpless expression. Holding the big plate chicken in his hand, he said, okay Yelena, there's still a big plate chicken here, come quickly, it's a medical miracle. The little princess Yelena immediately wiped away the tears on her face and trotted over to protect her food. Natasha Romanoff, who was still a tomboy, also turned back, and she had already nibbled away the chicken leg in her hand. This is mine, you bitch. You are my sister, and you scold me. Yelena and Natasha Romanoff fought each other. But the movements of the hands of the two men were not slow, and their mouths kept talking, and their speech faltered. Don't grab it, you can't eat so much. Also, Yelena is fine to call me uncle. Natasha Romanoff, why do you call me that too? Bai Xi said to the two. But they just nodded subconsciously and didn't listen to what he said at all. Bai Xi's face suddenly became a little helpless, and he was considered unlucky to have these two little lolly on the stall. He is not from this world. He is a glorious transmigrator coming to this world. He immediately knew the difference. History Stark Group. It's just too dazzling. As the largest arms dealer in the Lighthouse country, it is impossible to know whether it is possible. But fortunately, he activated the necessary system for traverses. That's the hidden system. As long as he hides his strength and does not reveal his true strength, he will be rewarded, and the longer he hides, the stronger he will be. It seems that it has been a year since it came to this world today. Bai Xi's eyes focused on the two little lolly in front of him, Natasha Romanoff and Yelena, to later Black Widow with illustrious reputation. But now, one is 10 years old and one is less than 8 years old. Still living leisurely in Ohio. I don't know what will happen in the future. Seeing the innocent smiles on their faces, Bai Xi felt a sense of protection. It's a pity he's still a scumbag. The two little guys ate the big plate of chicken in an instant. Yelena licked her fingers and said, Uncle Bai Xi, the food you make is delicious. I can't eat the food my parents made. That definitely. Bai Xi smiled. Uncle Bai Xi, why is the Chinese food outside not as good as yours? Natasha Romanoff asked the same. Bai Xi's smile disappeared immediately after hearing this. I'm only 18 years old. You little lolly call me uncle because my ability is extraordinary, Bai Xi said immediately. Natasha Romanoff heard that he was upset and stuck out his tongue, but didn't care. She is indeed not as cute as the little princess Yelena now. No wonder her adoptive parents like Yelena more. Bai Xi thought fiercely in his heart, and then heard Yelena's voice. Uncle Bai Xi, what shall we eat tomorrow? Yelena asked crisply, and Kazilan looked at Bai Xi with big eyes. Ah, you a foodie? Just finished eating today and thinking about tomorrow. Bai Xi immediately covered his forehead. Obviously, his cooking is just a hobby, just to show his hand at a critical moment. Doesn't it mean that if you want to capture a woman's heart, you must first capture her stomach? What turned out to be two little lolly, Natasha Romanoff, Yelena, home for dinner. At this moment, a voice called out their names. It's your mother here. Go back quickly, Bai Xi said with a smile. His family lived next to Natasha Romanoff's house. Well, if he knew it was this family who moved in, he would have run away. It's a pity that he stupidly went up to help move things. So he was entangled by the little princess Yelena. Mom, we're full. Yelena hugged Bai Xi with her oily hands and then ran away. Natasha Romanoff glanced at Bai Xi, made a face, and ran away. Tell you not to disturb Bai Xi, Yelena said with a smile, then nodded to Bai Xi from a distance. They had already investigated. Bai Xi was just an ordinary person. So willing to let Natasha Romanoff and Yelena contact him. Bai Xi also smiled and nodded. This Iron Lady is still very charming. Unfortunately, she is the agent of the Red House. Bai Xi looked at the oily clothes, took the dishes in and washed them, and gave himself a bath and did since 8 PM. A year ago, he passed through this time. Congratulations to the host for hiding his strength for 1 year and getting the reward. Batman's fighting ability. Every 5 years is a super reward. Bai Xi looked at the subtitles that flashed before him. Then the body seemed to be not his own, and a fighting instinct filled his body. He stood up and made various fighting movements strangely. Soon he became familiar with this fighting instinct, and his physique also changed in an instant. Inverted triangle. 8-pack abs. After gaining Batman's fighting ability, he finally turned from a scumbag to a fighting master. Even the peak Natasha Romanoff is no match for him, let alone the current little lolly, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 2, bringing the hand of the child, coexisting with the child. Bai Xi is still very satisfied with this reward. Grandpa's fighting ability is not something to brag about. If humans have a ceiling, it must be Batman. And once he chooses not to be a human being, that will crush all existence. The most terrifying villain in the world is Blacken's Batman. It's a pity that Bai Xi didn't get his IQ point, otherwise wouldn't that mere Marvel world be left to him? What Ancient One, Thanos, Odin, will be counted to death by him. He's not going to hide in Ohio anymore. Early the next morning, the doorbell of Bai Xi's house was rang. He immediately stood up with a carb, which made him feel that something was wrong. Completely subconscious action. Opening the door, Bai Xi consciously looked down. The little princess with 2 ponytails appeared in front of her. Uncle. Bai Xi, I'm going to starve to death. Yelena burst into tears. Natasha Romanoff shrugged, expressing some helplessness. What a little adult. Come in. Bai Xi stepped aside. Yelena ran in immediately, crying while saying, Mom and Dad ran out again early in the morning, leaving behind sandwiches that weren't meant for people to eat at all. Then, what do you want to eat? Bai Xi asked directly. This conversation seems to have happened countless times. What Yelena said was always heard by her mother, Zhejiang. Noodles. Yelena and Natasha Romanoff, who came in without saying a word, shouted at the same time, just wait. Bai Xi also felt a little hungry and said immediately, when I grow up, I must go to Dragon Country and visit Uncle Bai Xi's hometown, Yelena said with a smile. Bai Xi was a little sad to hear this. I don't know how long it will be before their family will go to the polar bear. Although he has some ability, he still can't protect the 2 little lolly. He sighed in his heart, but said lightly on the surface, you snack, you want to go eat? Hey, Yelena laughed suddenly, childish, bored. Natasha Romanoff spit out. Then the 2 sisters fought again. This scene, as if these 3 people are family. Alexei, the Red Guard and the Iron Lady Yelena are the outsiders. It didn't take long for Bai Xi's fried noodles to come out. After being fed by Bai Xi for a year, Yelena and Natasha Romanoff have become the stomachs of dragons, and those sandwiches for breakfast have long been hard to swallow. The 2 little guys ran over directly and ate the fried noodles on the plate. Then Yelena shouted, I want to eat dry fried beef tomorrow, you foodie. Bai Xi had no choice but to say, Natasha Romanoff is a little more sensible. Yelena, Uncle Bai Xi doesn't have a job, don't worry, I have money. And Natasha Romanoff, can I stop calling you uncle? Bai Xi suddenly said confidently. Isn't it the banknote ability? Who doesn't? As a traveler, Bai Xi made a lot of money in 1 year, and even bought the stock of Stark Group. At the moment, Tony Stark has begun to show his genius history. Stark Group's stock is soaring. 18-year-old Bai Xi, even the pension money is ready. Uncle Bai Xi, you are the best. Natasha Romanoff said excitedly. This let Bai Xi know that she was tricked. What a clever little ghost. Time passed so slowly. Natasha Romanoff and Yelena seem to have developed an attachment to Bai Xi. After all, they were originally adopted, and the parents who adopted them always disappeared mysteriously and often did not return home. Such a childhood would not be so happy without Bai Xi. In this case, Bai Xi's love was reciprocated by two little cuties. Happy birthday, little princess. Bai Xi put a birthday crown on Yelena and asked her to blow out the candles somehow. Natasha Romanoff seems a little jealous. Alexei smiled at Bai Xi. Thank you so much for taking care of you during this time, neighbors. And Yelena and Natasha Romanoff are cute too. Bai Xi said with a smile. Melina also said, then I have to thank you. Do you want anything? No, I just want Natasha Romanoff and Yelena to grow up happily. Bai Xi said sincerely, as if he had a deep meaning. Alexei and Melina looked at each other awkwardly. At the moment, Bai Xi also heard what they meant. They may be about to leave in a decisive time. Where are you leaving? Bai Xi thought of the place that terrified both Natasha Romanoff and Yelena. But, unless he's the real Batman now, there's no way he can fight the Red House. For the first time, Bai Xi felt that he was too weak. This birthday party is a little embarrassingly over this year. Natasha Romanoff is 11 years old, and Yelena is almost 10. And Europeans and Americans are precocious, and they already look like little adults. Another day, 8 o'clock in the evening. Congratulations to the host for hiding his strength for 2 years and getting the reward, Symbiosis Talisman. Symbiosis Talisman, carrying the hand of the child, symbiotic with the child. The symbiotic charm can protect the wearer from any violations and will not be trained by ordinary female agents. When the person carrying the symbiotic charm approaches, it will sense. Bai Xi saw the 3 dull pendants on his hand and knew their effects. These were drawn exclusively for Yelena and Natasha Romanoff. With it, they would not be afraid of turning into broken shoes. It can also be worn by 3 people. As long as one of the 3 people is not dead, the others can be resurrected without any rule restrictions. The first impression Bai Xi saw was that Natasha Romanoff didn't have to die in Soul Gem. In fact, he used to hate Natasha Romanoff because he always thought she was a broken shoe. It also brings this feeling into our present life. But now, Bai Xi only regards Natasha Romanoff as his little sister, and it's a bit of a culture. It's a pity that he couldn't stop the 2 little guys from going to the Red House. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 3. Did this happen out of thin air? Time unknowingly came to July. Bai Xi has nothing to do every day and plays leisurely with Natasha Romanoff and Yelena every day. The 2 little guys are the kind of people who are big and small, and they are very alert. To Bai Xi's surprise that night, Natasha Romanoff and Yelena didn't come to play with him. He specially made a sumptuous dinner and waited for the 2 sisters to eat. But when it got dark, no one was there. Usually by this time, Natasha Romanoff had come back from school on her bicycle, while Yelena would be watching Bai Xi's house on a swing. Unfortunately, Bai Xi opened the door and didn't see the 2 of them. But Natasha Romanoff's house can be seen brightly lit. Sudden boom. This is the sound of the engine, and Alexei hurried out of the room and said to Yelena, who was following him, I told you that there will be a surprise trip, remember? At the moment, Yelena had no expectations at all, only a strong reluctance. But it wasn't Bai Xi who adopted them. It's not that Bai Xi hasn't tried it, but it's a pity that Melina is unwilling to transfer the 2 little lolly to him for adoption. As if he discovered the abilities of the 2, he was determined to bring them back to the Red House and cultivate them into Black Widow. As soon as Yelena came out, she saw Bai Xi, who had just left. Uncle Bai Xi, Yelena ran towards him out of control, and Alexei didn't have time to stop it. Then, Natasha Romanoff, who was carrying a bag, also ran towards him. The 2 little guys immediately threw themselves into Bai Xi's arms. We're leaving. There were real tears in Yelena's eyes for the first time. Natasha Romanoff also looked at him with dismayed eyes. Bai Xi opened his mouth and wanted to leave them behind. But looking at Alexei and Melina, what will happen to Natasha Romanoff and Yelena if their identities are revealed? There will be a time for people to leave after all, but remember that leaving at this moment is for a better future. Bai Xi finally said with a sigh, you will always be my little padded jacket. Then he squatted down and embraced the two little guys in his arms. After a while, Bai Xi opened his palms, not knowing when two symbiotic talismans appeared. You take it. Remember to take it with you, no matter what time. It will protect your safety. Bai Xi said that the corners of his eyes became wet. For 2 years, he has become accustomed to treating Natasha Romanoff and Yelena as his own family, his own sister, but at the moment, it's time to part. Natasha Romanoff and Yelena held the symbiotic charm tightly. Uncle Bai Xi, can we still meet? Natasha Romanoff asked proactively. Bai Xi didn't expect that the always silent Natasha Romanoff would speak. He paused, then forced a smile. Yes, just don't call me uncle anymore. Good, uncle. Natasha Romanoff said deliberately, then turned and ran. The moment she turned around, tears flowed out uncontrollably, all the way to the corner of her mouth. Young Natasha Romanoff pursed her lips. Sour, astringent. Is this the memory? Yelena, hurry up. In the distance, Alexa called out Yelena's name impatiently. Yelena looked at Bai Xi with tears in her eyes and was speechless. Bai Xi just lowered his head and kissed her on the forehead. Yelena, remember that no matter when, don't give up. After Bai Xi finished speaking, Yelena couldn't help nodding her head. Then he looked at him reluctantly and then turned back and ran towards the off-road vehicle and looked back at Bai Xi from time to time. Uncle Bai Xi, goodbye. Yelena shouted loudly. The car started with a roar. The speed was not fast, but it disappeared immediately. Just left a sad person behind. Bai Xi lowered his head, and a bat-shaped flying dart appeared in his palm. The hidden system has its own space. The bat flying darts were polished by himself when he was free. The off-road vehicle soon drove to a small farm. There is a small, old-fashioned plane with a long runway that can take off. A few people got on the plane, and countless whistles sounded, followed by gunshots. Alexa naturally took up arms and fought back. Yelena flies the plane. After a fierce battle, the plane finally came to orbit. At this time, Natasha Romanoff ignored the intense gunshots and looked out the window as if there would be a figure who could not forget it. But unfortunately, Bai Xi was indeed there, but only standing on the roof. Suddenly, Bai Xi suddenly waved his hand and made a motion of throwing flying darts. The bat flying darts accurately hit a bullet that was in flight. The target of the bullet was Natasha Romanoff in the plane. Because of this collision, the bullet turned and hit Yelena, who was driving the plane. Yelena snorted coldly. But Natasha Romanoff didn't seem to hear it, just a sixth sense trigger, and suddenly looked back at a roof. The roof was empty, and there was not the figure she had hoped for. At the moment, Bai Xi was already standing in the dark, watching the plane leave the ground. He said, goodbye by fate, Natasha Romanoff. Yelena, he believes that this day will not be long. It's okay, it's a minor injury, only. Then did Natasha Romanoff hear Alexa's voice? It turned out that Yelena had been covered in blood at some point. Small farm. A crowd of heavily armed men checked everything. After a while, did you see anyone on the roof just now? Commander asked the soldiers under his command. No, sir. Then, what is this? Did it just appear out of thin air? The officer showed what was in his hand. A bat-shaped flying darts, glowing metallic, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 4. The figure falling from the sky. Bai Xi returned home, opened the door, and suddenly felt that the huge yard was empty. There was still a sumptuous dinner on the table, and there was still heat coming out. It's just that no one enjoys them anymore. In a trance, Bai Xi seemed to see a small figure sitting high on a chair, unable to step on the ground with both feet, swaying his legs, and holding the vegetables in a clumsy posture. The other uses his hands directly, and doesn't care about his image, like a tomboy. Beep. When Bai Xi smiled. The doorbell was rang. He desperately thought that the two little guys had returned, but unfortunately this possibility was almost zero. Opening the door, a blackish head appeared in front of him. The only difference was that he had two eyes. There is no eye mask. It is slightly green, and the clothes are still retro. By the way, it's only the 1990s. FBI, the young Nick Fury said skillfully. SHIELD impersonating the FBI from now on. Bai Xi was not in a good mood, so he didn't give him a good face. Is there a problem? We just have a few questions. Fury skillfully collected the documents. Behind him was a new looking guy. No bold Phil Coulson yet. Did you know that your neighbor was running away? Fury asked his own question, even though Bai Xi didn't seem eager to answer. Bai Xi stepped aside and let them see a table of sumptuous dishes in the hall. What do you say? Bai Xi asked back. Then, you later found out that they were leaving. Why didn't you stop them? Fury continued to ask. The neighbor wants to move. Will you stop it? Bai Xi countered again. It was my mistake. And one last question. Fury found that the young man in front of him was not easy to mess with and said immediately, anyone around here using flying darts? Have you seen this? Nick Fury said and took out a bat. Flying darts. Flying darts? Who doesn't have a hobby? Maybe Grandma Tracy next to them can. Bai Xi said again. Oh, by the way, I advise you to knock on her door quietly or she'll blow you in half with her pair of shotguns. After speaking, Bai Xi closed the door directly. Nick Fury shook his head immediately, finding nothing unusual. He left here directly and said to Phil Coulson, who was obviously still a little stunned, let's go, newcomer. Phil Coulson snapped back to his senses and caught up with Nick Fury, who wasn't yet the director. Bai Xi, who ate too casually, felt a little tasteless, so he went out and drove his new car to go racing. It has to be said that drag racing is really a very relaxing thing. Although the cars of this era are not very fast. But in the lighthouse country, basically everyone has a car by the age of 18. You will basically buy a used car because the driver's license is their ID card. Bai Xi drove into the city unknowingly, although at the moment it was already late at night. But just so there is no one. Just then, he saw a meteor streak across the sky. Boom. Well, not a meteor. Something smashed into the Blockbuster store next door. Bai Xi took a closer look. It seemed to be a person. He braked suddenly and stopped outside. Not long after, there was another explosion inside. Then a person full of dust came out from the inside. A woman with long blonde hair. Her figure was indescribable. At least this outfit looks a little burly on the body. When Bai Xi saw this scene, he knew who it was. Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers comes home for the first time. Dang. Bye. This time, Carol had walked over to his car and knocked on the window. Bai Xi rolled down the window casually. Hello, this is C-53 Planet Earth. Please show your ID. Bai Xi spoke directly. This makes Carol a little happy, and it seems that he will not get lost. Ah, you the security guard here? She asked Bai Xi, and then said, I'm from Star Troopers. My name is Firth. I protect the safety of the planet. Bai Xi said, that's right. The Skrulls entered the Earth. Carol's eyes lit up when he heard the words, and he began to talk. But Bai Xi interrupted her directly. This is something you caused. You have to solve it yourself. Okay. Then, where is the communication equipment? Carol had no choice but to ask. Bai Xi pointed to the phone booth in the distance. When Carol walked over, Bai Xi drove the car and left, shouting, you can find me if you have something. Star Troopers. Carol waved his hand, but reacted immediately. May I have your name? How can I find you? This is a scumbag. Carol turned around and watched Bai Xi's car drive away, and she couldn't help laughing. In fact, Bai Xi didn't want to join the event. He didn't want any contact with SHIELD. It didn't take long for Carol to finish the interstellar call when a black man tapped on the glass. Lady, have you seen a figure falling from the sky? I'll go over there. The kind. Carol suddenly pointed in a direction. Okay, show your ID. Fury took out his credentials and said, sorry, I don't have this printed on paper, and doesn't your Earth know that I've arrived? Carol was a little puzzled. Nick Fury suddenly had a question mark face point celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 5 The hidden 5-year gift package contains. Ultimately, Nick Fury still doesn't know who Carol is talking about, who knows her identity point, but it also made him pay attention point. Does anyone know that the code name of the Earth in the universe is C-53? Meanwhile, the polar bear's red house. Natasha Romanoff and Yelena have long been separated and haven't seen each other since that day point. The two little guys hugged their legs pitifully and helplessly, curling themselves together. Fortunately, they all hid the symbiotic talisman well and were not taken away by the red house point. Looking at the unfamiliar surroundings and strangers around her, Natasha Romanoff held her hands open point. The symbiotic talisman exudes a faint fluorescence. Uncle Bai Xi, girls, get ready to train. An adult woman slammed the iron gate twice and shouted. Natasha Romanoff immediately stashed it away and kept it wherever she went point. The same goes for Yelena on the other side point. The two of them are undergoing the most brutal training from now on point, trying to be a Black Widow point. There is only one thought in their minds: only by surviving can we see Uncle Bai Xi again. Bai Xi doesn't know how many people have been thinking about him, including Carol, who is not on Earth and has only met once point. She has regained her identity. Bai Xi seems to have entered retirement decades in advance point. Without the two little lolly by my side, time passed quickly. Congratulations to the host for hiding his strength for 3 years and getting the reward, mantra lasso. Congratulations to the host for hiding his strength for 4 years and getting the reward, teleportation ability. Bai Xi looked at the mantra lasso in his hand and felt extremely hot point. This is one of Wonder Woman's artifacts and Wonder Woman's weakness. I heard that as long as you tie Wonder Woman Diana with it, you can do whatever you want. The mantra lasso has the power to let people speak the mantra. As long as it is bound by it, under the action of the mantra power, only the truth can be spoken point. You can't even cheat. As for the teleportation ability, teleportation, advanced version, the host can reach any place in the 9 realms with a single thought, without consuming any energy, provided that the location is known, or there is a familiar person. This energy is not conserved, but because of this, Bai Xi has only 2 words bull ratio. This is equivalent to that he is Bifrost himself and can go anywhere in the 9 realms at will point, and this just needs a thought point. What Kamatage's teleportation spells are simply weak. Definitely, it still doesn't compare to Bifrost. Bifrost isn't a mere teleportation device. In fact, it's an incredibly powerful weapon point. When not in built Bifrost, one was to chase the flame giant Cert that could be teleported at will, and the other was to deter the 9 realms. It now appears that Bifrost has indeed built it right point. When he got this ability, Bai Xi wanted to leave Ohio point, because Ohio is not far from New York. Bai Xi wondered why he was also a young man and should go to a big city instead of retire here. However, he decided to wait 5 years before changing places. At least there is a conclusion here. 8 PM. Congratulations to the host for hiding his strength for 5 years and getting a reward, a spree. For the first time, Bai Xi got a gift package instead of something straight point. A golden gift bag appeared in front of him point. In the first year, the hidden system said that every 5 years is a super reward point. So in front of you is the super reward point. Bai Xi, who had already bathed and burned incense, directly opened the gift bag. Congratulations to the host for opening the big gift package and getting a super reward, a serious punch. Seriously punch. If I punch you down, you may die. Seriously punch. When Bai Xi saw this reward, a sharp-looking bald head appeared in front of him. Can this punch kill Thanos? I'm afraid it still won't work. After all, Bai Xi is still a person, and that purple potato essence is not a person. Low profile. Bai Xi suppressed his eager heart point, although his killing arm was almost unstoppable point. Take a look at the personal interface. Host, Bai Xi. Items, Symbiosis Talisman, Mantra Lasso. Ability, Batman's fighting ability, teleportation, advanced version, serious punch. The next day, Bai Xi packed up his things and threw them all into the system space point. Those who can't be taken away naturally don't want it point. Uncle Bai is not a person who is short of money. Do the shareholders of Stark Group understand? Then, Bai Xi made a decisive teleportation point when he was fine before. He tried this ability point, so now it's easy to use point. It's not that he didn't try to find the red house, but unfortunately he couldn't find it at all. He also lacked Heimdall's eyes, which could see everything in the 9 realms. Now his teleportation must be seen, or where he has been, before he can teleport point, or like Sun Wukong in Dragon Ball. Remember the breath of others. Bai Xi had seen pictures of New York before, so at the moment, passed in a teleportation point this year is 1998. 14-year-old Natasha Romanoff, because of her extraordinary ability, became the youngest and most powerful Black Widow. No one knew what exactly supported her perseverance, making her the most powerful person, and standing out among the girls including her sister Yelena. None surpassed her this year. Natasha Romanoff played Hawkeye in Budapest and persuaded him to join SHIELD. The painful memories brought to her by the Red House seemed to be forever sealed in the depths of her memory. At this time, another memory popped up. That one has always supported her belief in the most difficult time. So, Natasha Romanoff went back to Ohio. It's a pity that when she stood in the yard of the year, it was already empty. The sports car that Bai Xi bought back then has not been driven since that time. There seems to be traces of living inside, but the owner is no longer there. Natasha Romanoff, the residents here say the people who live here haven't come out for a long time. Hawkeye panted and ran over to be courteous. Where did the master go? I don't know. No one knows. It's like he disappeared out of thin air and he didn't see him leave. Hawkeye asked, who lives here? Do you want to keep looking? Natasha Romanoff in the dark moved his lower lip and finally sighed. No need. What? If you found it? How should she face Bai Xi, agent, spy, or Black Widow? She's not the tomboy she used to be. At this moment, she didn't even have the courage to step into the house. Natasha Romanoff holds the symbiotic charm in his hand and decides to be a widow for Bai Xi for the rest of his life. This can be considered a real Black Widow, right? Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 6 Polaris Lorna. If New York calls itself the second largest city in the world, that no city dares to say that it is the first. Although Bai Xi is also reluctant to admit this, the lighthouse country of this era is really the lighthouse of the West. But he knows that the times will change after all, and there is a red sun rising. Bai Xi came to New York unnoticed by anyone. Because it's night, and he's in a clever place, the tallest building in New York, the top floor of the Stark building. In 1992, Tony Xi Stark inherited the Xi Stark Group, and at the age of 21, he became the largest shareholder of the Xi Stark Group. He was young, rich, and extremely smart, so he naturally became a well-known playboy. He spent a lot of money to build the building of the Stark Group, which became the tallest building in New York, and is now the symbol of New York. Obviously, there was no one on the top floor of Xi Stark building at night. Tony Xi Stark didn't know which girl he took to Wenrao Township. There was never a shortage of women in the world who offered Tony their own pillows. Bai Xi could have been such a person, but he obviously despises these Rouge vulgar fans. The day he first came into this world, he was a cheerleader at Ohio State, but dumped him the next day. He never considered himself a good person. Bai Xi looked at the flickering metropolis, feasting and feasting, which really made him feel more passionate. So, he jumped straight from the building of the Xi Stark Group. Close your eyes and let the wind hit your face. Then, when it was about to touch the ground, it disappeared instantly. He needs a place to live. In fact, Bai Xi could find Tony and let the other party arrange it. Because he is the third largest shareholder of Stark Group. He has been buying shares in the Stark Group over the years, and now, apart from Tony Stark and Abadia, no one has more shares than him. It's just that Tony and Abadia have only heard his name and never knew anything about him. I don't know anything about identity, appearance, or even gender. Well, the gender can still be determined from the name. Bai Xi was walking down the street, ready to take care of it for the night. Unconsciously, Bai Xi walked into the alley. Many black people on the street glanced at him from time to time point in the lighthouse country, especially in places with many black people. You must not go out at night point. If you have to go out, it is best to bring dozens of knives on your body as protection money point, because as long as you give Deole, no one will embarrass you point but no protection. Fee, then please be yourself point. A group of people gathered around to collect the protection fee, and of course Bai Xi brought him down in 2 or 3 strokes, not to mention a serious punch. Just Batman's fighting skills are enough to deal with these guys. The hidden system is not to let him be a coward or a turtle, but to not reveal the strongest combat power when fighting against people point. Therefore, Bai Xi left very easily point, but not long after he walked, he heard shouts from the alley point. A girl is screaming for help. Bai Xi frowned and walked over without stopping point. Saving a life is better than building a 7-level pagoda point. If he were an ordinary person, he would definitely turn his head and leave, but he is not point. In the alley, a few black gangsters surrounded a white girl point. The girl had black hair, and her facial features were blocked, and could not be seen clearly point. In the lighthouse country, many black people are very distorted in their hearts. They desperately want to contact white women to prove that they are not discriminated against. They can call each other nego, but don't let other races call them nego. Therefore, black people have been discriminating against black people themselves. Therefore, it is not surprising that this white and beautiful white girl was stopped point. You should stay home at night. Hey, Nico. Bai Xi shouted directly point. When a few black people heard the word nego, they turned their heads and looked at Bai Xi as if their DNA had moved. Do you want to die? Dare to discriminate against us? Beat him up. Kill this Asian. However, before they could make a move, Bai Xi rushed over, stepped on the wall, and flew directly in front of him. Point. One punch, and one Nico fell to the ground. Point. Soon, several black people who were beating up fell to the ground. Point. Only one shivered, and when he saw the white girl, he rushed over. What the? Girl was so frightened that she immediately hugged her head and squatted on the ground. Before Bai Xi could make a shot, he saw the Senija who ran over and flew out. Point. This is more exaggerated than making a movie. Bai Xi took a closer look. The white girl holding her head, a green light lit up in her hands. He suddenly showed a stunned expression. It's alright. Bai Xi walked over without touching her. The girl raised her head, with delicate facial features and black hair draped behind her, looking at him. Bai Xi stretched out a hand and said, "Because I'm here." The girl carefully stretched out her hand, shrank a bit, and then firmly placed it in Bai Xi's hand. Point. He was then pulled from the ground by Bai Xi. Point. The girl seemed a little afraid of him, but she still thanked Bai Xi with a grateful face. "My name is Bai Xi. What's your name?" Bai Xi showed a kind smile. "My name is Lorna." Then she added, "Lorna Dane." Bai Xi smiled and looked at her, thinking silently in his heart. Polaris, he had a guess when he saw the green light in Lorna's hand just now. Point. Now hearing her name, Bai Xi is sure. Point. The girl in front of her is mutant. Polaris Lorna. Point. That sassy girl. Point. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 7. Prince Charming. Bai Xi. Xavier Genius Academy. Bai Xi has lived in the lighthouse country for 5 years without hearing anyone talk about it. Point. But now, Polaris has appeared, and there is a variant ability. Point. But that's normal. Polaris doesn't share the same worldview as Professor X. Bai Xi directly protected Lorna out of the alley. Why are you alone on the street so late? Faced with this question, Lorna seemed a little hesitant. Point. When they came to the brightly lit street, Lorna breathed a sigh of relief. Point. She looked at Bai Xi weakly and said, "Where are you going?" "I don't know. Just find a place to live. I don't have a home yet." Bai Xi said. Point. I knew I would stay for one night and come here. At that time, I was a little excited after getting the super award, and then I moved directly and instantly. Point. However, Lorna would not be encountered that way. Point. Life is amazing. Lorna looked a little hesitation, but still said, "How about you stay at my place for one night? Everyone on the street is homeless. Bai Xi looked around. New York is indeed the largest and most prosperous city in the world. But there are also many things buried by its prosperity. Just like Los Angeles with Hollywood and star-studded. Los Angeles has the second most homeless people of any city in the lighthouse country, which is the first. This is the metropolis in front of Bai Xi, New York. If there are no clear figures to express this, I'm afraid that those public officials are not willing to believe this as the largest city in the world. New York has the most homeless and beggars in the lighthouse country. Countless homeless people fell directly on the street at night. So, Lorna doesn't want her savior to sleep on the street, so it's normal to ask. Bai Xi did not refuse either, although he can choose to go to the best hotel. But it was Lorna who invited him in front of him. When he came to the residence, Bai Xi knew, while Lorna had been indecisive on hesitation before. Because she's no better than a tramp. There is only a small room to live in. It is still underground. It may be an abandoned room by others. She remodeled it at will, and naturally there was nothing left. Then what she was out for before is clear at a glance. So, after returning, Lorna's expression was very restrained. As if this was not her home, but a guest at someone else's. Lorna felt very embarrassed for letting Bai Xi see her urgent appearance. But fortunately, Bai Xi is also a tramp. She should be able to match him. If Bai Xi knew what she was thinking, I'm afraid I'd be willing to be a homeless man. Just when Lorna was at a loss, Bai Xi fell directly on the straw mat she was laying. It is said to be a straw mat, but it is actually a pile of grass, not but very comfortable. Bai Xi said, "Why don't you sleep next to me and squeeze?" Lorna suddenly showed a shy smile, but came over anyway. Bai Xi then chatted with her about something, not about her life, but just asked about her past. "I didn't know who my parents were since I was a child, and I was adopted later. The adoptive parents were not good to me," Lorna said to herself, looking a little sad. Orphanages in Beacon Country are very popular, and many people like to adopt them, including some celebrities, especially rich. My favorite is to adopt a family, but in fact, not all adopters are very attentive, and sometimes they just find a tool. Lorna was like that, so she ran out on her own. When she grew up, go to sleep. Tomorrow will be better. After listening, Bai Xi said to her, this is Bai Xi's guarantee to Lorna. But Lorna didn't know it. She couldn't sleep. At night, she shone through the starlight underground and looked at Bai Xi's face. She thought of the previous situation. Bai Xi, like the Prince Charming in fairy tales, stepped on colorful clouds and saved her, the girl in distress. Crazy. The next morning, Lorna, who was sleeping soundly, was woken up by Bai Xi. She felt that this was the most comfortable sleep in her life in more than 10 years without any worries. She felt very at ease in her sleep, and she no longer had the anxiety she had before. It made her reluctant to even wake up from her sleep. However, Bai Xi called her up mercilessly. Lorna rubbed her eyes. She already looked like a royal sister. She looked at Bai Xi with a pair of phoenix eyes. Her eyes were full of joy. Eat something. Bai Xi gave Lorna the breakfast he bought. There is no place for him to show his cooking skills here. Lorna was really hungry and touched her stomach. Aren't you going to eat? Ate. Then I'm welcome. Lorna devoured the sandwich, but left half of it. Eat lunch. Bai Xi looked at her with pity and distress. Pack up your things. We'll move. Moving? I thought you were leaving. Lorna said suspiciously. She was really afraid that, as soon as awakening came, Bai Xi would disappear. After all, she is an ugly duckling, not even Cinderella. It's normal for Bai Xi to look down on her. That's why Lorna doesn't want to wake up early. She's scared. So seeing that Bai Xi didn't leave her, Lorna was very happy. Go to our new home. I'm already looking forward to it, Bai Xi said with a smile. Help Lorna get started. It's obviously just a dilapidated house, but it really allowed Lorna to sort out a lot of things. Bai Xi thought about it and didn't let Lorna lose it. That would hit her too hard. Gentlemen readers, the new book is begging for flowers, reviews, monthly passes, and everything, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Hidden Rewards for 7 years. Along the way, Lana became more and more estranged with Bai Xi because Bai Xi is taking her to the rich area. Why are you going this way? Lana whispered. She felt very uncomfortable, like all the rich people around her were looking at her. Bai Xi grabbed her little hand and said, our home is here. You have to memorize the way. How is this possible? Lana wanted to ask, but didn't speak. Just follow Bai Xi, more puzzled. Then, I came to the villa area. Through the identity verification of the security, the two entered safely. Led by a saleswoman, the two moved to their new home. A very European style villa, classical and elegant. It even made Lana feel a little dreamy. That's it. Bai Xi nodded with satisfaction. The money has been paid. Lana looked at the saleswoman with a pity smile and left. She took 3 steps and looked back at Bai Xi as if she had missed the chance to turn over. She looked around blankly. A playboy whose face was often seen, definitely on TV and newspapers. It seemed to be called Tony Stark. He was on the phone smartly, and he said, I'm going to Los Angeles immediately. Made an appointment with a new actress, and whistled to the woman next to her. Let's go. Don't be in a daze. Bai Xi dragged Lana into the compound, ignoring Tony Stark, who had not yet become Iron Man. The current Tony Stark is just a ruthless toolman. Let the Stark group appreciate in value. Lana was half dragged into the villa by Bai Xi. She was like Grandma Lu entering the Grandview garden, standing in the hall only daring to look around, not even daring to touch it. Sit down, this is our future home. Seeing Lana tightening his body, Bai Xi immediately kneaded her shoulders and said, I was so relaxed at your house yesterday. Why didn't you relax when you came to my house? Lana was at a loss and didn't know what to say. I said, this is our home, and this will be your home in the future. Bai Xi's tone suddenly became heavy. Lana stared blankly at Bai Xi and asked, Bai, did you do it on purpose yesterday? There is no intention in this world. It's all destiny. I just came to New York yesterday. After Bai Xi finished speaking, he finally added, I just like a strong girl. Hearing this, Lana nodded and went upstairs. Then, I will choose a room myself. Lana chose to be next to the master bedroom and looked at all this in disbelief. She didn't dare to touch anything, but cleaned herself first. Afterwards, she touched everywhere, as if she were touching the divine. Is it all predestined? Lana believed in fate from the beginning, so there was no doubt at the moment. Lana, come down to eat. Bai Xi shouted from below. Lana looked at her luggage and put it away. Although there are new ones, she doesn't want to throw away the old ones. In her opinion, she is still the ugly duckling, and she may return to that small room at any time. Then, Lana, who went downstairs, saw a table of sumptuous dishes. Why did you take a bath for so long? Bai Xi wondered. Lana blushed suddenly. Fortunately, Bai Xi didn't ask. He knew how much ink the woman had. Don't talk about women. Yelena, the little princess, was very slow at that time. Thinking of Yelena, I don't know how she is doing. Bai Xi suddenly felt sad. Then he saw Lana, who was eating carefully, was conquered by his food. It would have been slow and clumsy. After trying a few mouthfuls, I simply dropped my chopsticks and took it with my fork in my hands. She didn't even have the habit of using a fork. Bai Xi hit her hand and started teaching her to use chopsticks. Facts have proved that to conquer a woman is to conquer her stomach, which is indeed the truth. With the help of delicious food, Lana quickly forgot her previous troubles and began to actively integrate into this new home. Although sometimes she can still see that she is a little uncomfortable. But she is actively improving. Just like what Kha'Zix said, change is a good thing. Yes. I see sunshine everywhere. Happiness fluttering over the city, and the new world comes like a dream. Bai Xi is humming the song that at the moment is singing on the other side of the earth. With Lana's company, time seems to be a lot more cheerful. Before you know it, a new century has arrived. After 2 years, Lana has completely gotten used to Bai Xi and has grown completely. Gradually, I have the domineering of Miss Polaris in Bai Xi's memory. According to Lana, she sleeps soundly every day now. She no longer has to suffer for life. Therefore, Lorna is very grateful to Bai Xi and regards Bai Xi as her only family. And Bai Xi's harvest in the past 2 years is also very good. Congratulations to the host, who has achieved 6 years of hidden strength and received a reward, Fountain of Youth. The Fountain of Youth, after using it, you can prolong your life by 500 years, and you will be forever young and your face will not age. There is a small bottle of Fountain of Youth, and it only takes 1 drop for 1 person to use. So, Bai Xi decisively gave himself and Lorna a drop. Bai Xi looked in the mirror every day and felt that he was 18 years old, just like he was back then. As for the reward for the 7th year, congratulations to the host's hidden strength for 7 years. Get the reward, Bumblebee. A brand new Camaro appeared in front of him. Let Lorna shout out cool unconsciously. Bai Xi doesn't like mobility aids because he always feels tiring to drive, but when Bumblebee came out, he liked it. It's cool not to have to drive by yourself, and the skills of driving a Ferrari with one hand are useless, and his personal panel has been updated. Host, Bai Xi. Items, Symbiosis Talisman, Mantra Lasso, Fountain of Youth, Bumblebee. Ability, Batman's fighting ability, teleportation, advanced version, serious punch. PS, this book is based on the setting of the movie universe, so the Black Widow can take a break. Also, the Stark Group, which was taken over by Tony Stark in 1992, should not be scolded by readers. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 9 Yelena returns. Things are different. A high-o-point girl with blonde hair, sunglasses and a tight uniform came outside the house where Bai Xi lived. But unfortunately, this is different from when Natasha Romanoff came. The yard was overgrown with weeds, and the windows were full of dust, because no one was cleaning. Yelena took off her glasses, her eyes moist. Bai Xi left. That little princess back then has grown into a slim little girl. It's a pity that the person she has been looking forward to is no longer there. And she just came to the lighthouse country to do a mission. She hasn't been able to get out of the red house like Natasha Romanoff. It is naturally impossible to investigate where Bai Xi is. Also, Yelena has the same worries as Natasha Romanoff. In what capacity can she meet Bai Xi? She's not that little princess who doesn't know anything. So, Yelena finally just trimmed the weeds in the yard, and then left without looking back. Things are people and things are not done, and tears will flow first. If you want to speak. A drop of clear tears flew out from the corner of Yelena's eyes. The new century is very happy, and everyone thinks that life will get better and better. Bai Xi flew Lorna around the city. Seeing the smiles on everyone's face, it seems that the new century will be different. Bai Xi casually placed on the steering wheel of Bumblebee, but Bumblebee was actually driving. Lorna sat in the co-pilot and looked at him happily. Boom. What? But right now. Hornet slammed on the brakes and Lorna was almost thrown out. Fortunately, Bai Xi quickly grabbed her. I told you not to wear your seatbelt, Bai Xi said to Lorna. Then looking forward, Lorna also looked at the person who fell in front of him in shock. The man fell from the roof. If it wasn't for Bumblebee, it would have hit them. Bai Xi and Lorna opened the car door, and a woman in red was lying on the ground. She looks like a killer, Lorna said ignorantly. Bai Xi nodded and said, she is the killer, a ninja killer of the hand. Erica. She can be identified from her dress and the weapon in her hand. She was thrown down from a building that was never known how many stories high, and she was obviously dying. In other words, it doesn't help. It wasn't mashed into pieces, and it was not bad to have a whole corpse. Bai Xi and Lorna looked up, only to see a man with a bandage on his head and a bull C drawn on his forehead looking at them. The number 1 thug of the underworld, idiot Jinbing. Jinbing is known as the Underground Emperor, and the power of the entire lighthouse country belongs to him. Maybe it was because Bai Xi and Lorna blocked Bull C's line of sight, so Bull C didn't know whether Erica was dead or not. So Bull C grabbed a handful of flying darts and sprinkled them down. The flying darts reflected in the light in the dark, stabbed Lorna in the eye, and naturally made her realize what was going on. So what? Lorna was startled, pressed her hands down directly, and screamed. In that instant, a green light flashed across Lorna's hands. Boom. With A loud bang. All the street lights on the street shattered, and the electronic instruments were directly scrapped. The window of the vehicle parked next to it turned into glass slag directly, spreading to the surroundings. Hornet kept trembling, and kept his window. Beep. Beep. All shaken vehicles rattled. There was so much movement that night, it was hard not to notice. The flying darts that were thrown downwards were subconsciously controlled by Lorna, and bounced towards the Bullseye. Bullseye was dumbfounded. Immediately rolled over to dodge, but was still accurately hit by the controlling flying darts. As if the aiming was installed, it turned directly in the air, although this was just Lorna's unconscious control. For words also appeared. The ability is extraordinary. What? Bullseye screamed, unable to control his body on the roof, and fell down like Erica. Moreover, his posture was even worse, and the bones of his direct body were shattered, as if they had become muddy flesh. Erica has a whole corpse anyway, but Bullseye was directly paralyzed. How is this going? Lorna held up her hands in fear, and put them in front of her eyes, the green light still flashing on them. Hearing the movement from all around, Bai Xi immediately grabbed Lorna's hand. Go home first. Sitting on the Hornet, he sped away directly from the accident scene. This is just a gang fight, and it has nothing to do with them. Both Bai Xi and Lorna are good law-abiding citizens. In the co-pilot, the bumblebee gallops and overtakes, the breeze blowing on Lorna's face. Lorna calmed down a little, and at the moment, the green light on her hand has disappeared, like a dreamlike illusion. But she knew that what happened before was true. Bai Xi just patted the back of her hand to reassure her. Fortunately, Lorna wasn't out of control, just a little frightened and scared. Humans' first reaction to the unknown is curiosity and fear, especially for things that have already caused huge disturbances. Fear takes up more of the side. Therefore, it is normal for Lorna to be afraid of this unknown power, even if it was her own doing. Don't be afraid, Lorna, I'm by your side. Bai Xi soothed her emotions. It wasn't until he got home that Lorna's breathing completely subsided. Stepping into the door, Lorna walked upstairs tremblingly. I want to take a break first. Bai Xi knew that she wanted to be quiet, so he just looked at her with some worry in his eyes. After 2 years of living together, he knew that Lorna was a vulnerable girl. I hope she can accept the changes in herself. Some bosses have rewarded, and today I have added more, and I will do what I say. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 10. Because of your ability. Beep beep. A modified car came to the scene of the incident. The more mature Natasha Romanoff got out of the car, 16 years old, and she looked no different from 20. That's the good thing about Europeans and Americans. Precocious, the charming Natasha Romanoff came to the scene twisting her waist, leaving only a pool of blood. Both corpses were taken away by unknown persons, who used the bomb. There was so much movement. Natasha Romanoff looked around while chewing gum. Report. Sir, there are eyewitnesses who said it was a gang fight. A subordinate ran over and said, where are the witnesses? Natasha Romanoff walked over with him and saw a woman standing on the street saying, I'm a witness. Is there a reward? Chewing gum. Natasha Romanoff glanced at her in disgust and said slightly contemptuously, as long as the evidence you provide is true, there will be knife fun. It's such that the woman standing on the street spoke. You said there was a car. Yes, a new Chevrolet with a man and a woman. What does it look like? The street lights are all broken. How can I see clearly? Ah, you sure it wasn't their hands? Hey, that girl was so frightened that she still started. Natasha Romanoff frowned. He motioned to his subordinates to give the girl on the street some knives, and then got on the bus directly. It sounds like something abnormal is happening, but the source has disappeared and cannot be traced. As for what the woman said about the new Chevrolet, this is so New York. There are so many rich people to die for, and the new Camaro has been very popular recently, and it will kill people to check it. So leave this to the NYPD. It has nothing to do with SHIELD. It's probably just two unlucky bastards Natasha Romanoff thought about the two men and women who were driving cameras that the woman on the street said and immediately complained. Little did she know that the unlucky person she was talking about was the one she had always wanted to find but was afraid to look for. Lana let the water from the sprinkler spray out on her head. She closed her eyes and thought about what had happened before. The picture is mainly fixed on Bai Xi's face. He doesn't seem to be afraid or disgusted. Thinking of this, Lana finally breathed a sigh of relief. What she is afraid of is not her inexplicable power, but the fear that she is a freak who will scare Bai Xi and abandon her. She doesn't want to be abandoned again, especially her only family. If possible, Lana is willing to give everything for Bai Xi. Lana opened her eyes. The drops of water blocked her vision. She wiped it casually. The water in her hands, all green. What? Lana yelled again. She kept rubbing her hair with her hands, but the whole hair gradually turned green. What? Lana cried out in pain. She really is a freak. Then she heard the bathroom door being opened. Frightened, pitiful, and helpless, Lana turned her head and saw Bai Xi's worried eyes. At this moment, Bai Xi only felt extremely distressed. Ignoring her beautiful shoulders, he rushed over and hugged her. Lana, it's okay, I'm here, Bai Xi said. It made Lana seem to be back in that box. It's alright, because I'm here. Bai Xi's overbearing words saved her once again. Lana's hands were full of green water. She said tremblingly, Bai, I'm not a monster. You definitely aren't. Bai Xi hugged her and buried her head in his body. Lana, this is your ability. Do you understand? This is because of your extraordinary ability. Bai Xi kept comforting her. It took Lana a while to accept that this was her ability. Fortunately, the nozzle kept spraying hot water so that she would not be frozen. Lana was held in front of the mirror by Bai Xi. Look at yourself in the mirror. Her long black hair had completely turned pale green. But the strange thing is that Lana doesn't think it is ugly, but it is a little evil and good looking. She tilted her head, her expression a little perverse. Lana, you are so beautiful, Bai Xi said in a timely manner. Lana finally nodded and accepted her change. Come on, I made your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs, Bai Xi said with a smile. Perhaps because of suffering as a child, Lana likes food with strong flavors. Hearing this, Lana blushed suddenly. You go out, I haven't dressed yet. When Lana got down from the upstairs, she couldn't bear it any longer. She trotted over and used chopsticks skillfully. She is indeed capable, not just in variant ability. And other aspects of her. Learn anything quickly. While eating, Lana listened to Bai Xi's words. Lana, you are your own ability because you have a hidden X gene in your body, Bai Xi said, so this is normal. You are a normal human being, but you have more special abilities than ordinary people. What ability? Lana was a little confused. You can try. Bai Xi looked at her encouragingly. Lana had some hesitation, but still tried to evoke the ability in his body. As Bai Xi said, this is her ability. She can easily control this ability. But Lana raised his right hand. Green light emanated, and the silver tablet on the table vibrated. Then it slowly flew into her palm. In her palm it turns like a butterfly. Lana stared blankly at everything under her control. She could feel that many things were under her control. Just see if she wants to. She turned her head to look at Bai Xi, and there was only one thought in her mind. I'm really talented. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 11 Friends. 039. Wife. Done. 039. T deceive. Morning. Lana came down the stairs with a wave. The silver dinner plate flew directly into her hands, and then the silver chopsticks picked up the noodles inside and automatically stuffed them into her mouth. And all Lana had to do was open her mouth and wait for the feeding. This is more caring than a boyfriend. Seeing this scene, Bai Xi was slightly envious. His strength is very strong, and it is estimated that few can catch his serious punch. But there is no special ability like Lana. After Lorna accepted her ability, she began to exercise it consciously. She is stronger than Bai Xi imagined. Because Lorna knew that all she could rely on was a special ability. She can protect Bai Xi. Therefore, she madly mastered her ability, and she quickly became proficient. Her hair turned green because of the first stimulation of her ability. Perhaps nothing better than Lorna's ability to mutate. After all, she was born for the big scene. I do not know why. Since gaining ability, Bai Xi found Lorna more and more confident. In the past, he would lower his head unconsciously, but now, he will always hold his neck up, like a proud little swan. That dude invited us to the banquet. Bai Xi looked at the newspaper and said to Lorna. History Stark Group is getting bigger and bigger because Tony Stark is more talented than his father, Howard Stark. Definitely, also because the times are improving. But anyway, it's true that the Stark Group is making more and more money. Tony Stark. Lorna was clearly dismissive. Due to living in this villa area, Tony Stark would come across from time to time. Lorna has green hair that is beyond this era, although it seems to kill Matt. But it was also seen by Tony as a playboy. Tony naturally wanted to capture Lorna. Too bad Lorna didn't look at him at all. Want to go have a look? Bai Xi pointed to the invitation letter placed on the table. Don't go. Lorna clearly disliked Tony Stark. In fact, except for the women who volunteered to stick on him, they generally hated Tony's fashionable behavior. So those who are really close to Tony basically have other purposes. Bai Xi never accuses Tony of being a scumbag, because those who approach him are not good people. I have to tell him he can't move my woman, Bai Xi said with a smile. As the mysterious shareholder of the Stark Group, he does have to meet Tony. Otherwise, Tony will definitely try to get rid of his shares, although his stake is not comparable to Tony and Abadia. As night fell, the city of New York seemed to really come alive. The lights are feasting, and there are fluorescent flashes everywhere. Bai Xi and Lorna attended Tony's banquet in bumblebee costumes. The location is a Stark building. It's Tony's work. There are countless ladies and rich people here, most of whom are partners, but more of them came alone, dressed up beautifully, and the purpose was self-evident. Just to spend the night with Tony Stark and see if I can get any good. Even if it's just a newspaper, it's a profit for them. Tony Stark's every move will receive the attention of countless people. Oh, you are finally here, beautiful lady. By the way, who are you? Tony didn't know when he appeared in front of the two of them. Lorna glared at Tony angrily. Tony did it on purpose. Bai Xi didn't care. Tony Stark's character is like this. Even if you are a friend, you will have the urge to hammer him to death. What's more, strangers who have nothing to do with each other? Tony Stark is just going to taunt you endlessly. His character is as annoying as Thor's. It's just that Thor is just a little boy. And Tony Stark is an asshole. Definitely a love-hate bastard. Me, just an ordinary person who holds 9% of the shares of the Stark Group. Bai Xi spoke the most eloquent words in the most insipid tone. After listening to the first half of the sentence, Tony was ready to ignore Bai Xi. But after listening to it all, he changed his face and Sichuan opera. It turns out that the third largest shareholder of the Stark Group is you? Tony was slightly surprised, and then he could only glance at Lorna helplessly. Since you are your own, then I will definitely not move your woman. Hearing him say so bluntly, Lorna wanted to throw him out. Is she an object? But it has to be said that Tony is indeed a real temperament. And understand one sentence. Friend's wife, don't be deceived. Lorna disliked the party atmosphere so much that she urged Bai Xi to leave. Anyway, this time it was just to tell Tony who he was. The purpose has been achieved. In Lighthouse Country, there are many people who are called party animals. It means that they live with all kinds of parties every day, get drunk and die, and don't care about anything else. But obviously, Bai Xi and Lorna are not such non-thinking animals. What Bai Xi and Lorna didn't expect was they were being watched. Maya Hansen, a scientist, a beautiful woman scientist. On Century Night, she had invited Tony to talk, but was OV'd by Tony Stark. So she hated Tony and had been looking for someone else to study extremis with her. Now she had found Bai Xi, perhaps because she saw him talking to Tony. Add more chapters. There are a lot of manuscripts, and I will never supervise celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 12 Extremis, the man who came back from the dead. Tony and I are just strangers and haven't seen each other twice. That's right, I'm looking for you. Mayor Hansen blocks Bai Xi and Lorna's way. I have a project that maybe we can collaborate on. Mayor Hansen stroked her hair. She showed off her charm to the fullest point. She understands now. It just wasn't attractive enough to Tony at the time, and Tony forgot about her. But she is arrogant and naturally won't go to Tony again. Mayor can only switch targets unfortunately. Bai Xi didn't even look at her, just looked at Lorna beside him. What project? Bai Xi asked casually. I call it Extremis. It can reborn a broken limb. Mayor Hansen spoke, explaining what Extremis was. Oh, I'm very interested. Bai Xi heard the words and said, unfortunately, I'm not a scientist. It's okay. This project can bring 1000% return. Ah, you lying to a fool. Bai Xi and Lorna left directly from her side. Mayor Hansen tried to catch up, but found herself suddenly unable to move. As an ordinary person, she naturally couldn't find the green light in Lorna's hand. He could only watch Bai Xi and Lorna disappear in front of his eyes, sit on Bumblebee and leave gracefully. Even with it, she was distorted in her heart, and she hated both Bai Xi and Lorna. Bumblebee parked on the side of the road. And now there are no passers-by. After all, it is not the Dragon Country. Even in New York, few people dare to go outside late at night. And only dare to go to places guarded by NYPD. In Long Kingdom, you can't see officials guarding outside late at night. Bai Xi and Lorna leaned on Bumblebee and looked up at the night sky. The floor of the street is not high, so it can't block the starry sky. Ah, you bullish on Extremis? Lorna asked Bai Xi curiously. Bai Xi nodded and said, definitely, but that requires a genius idea to perfect. When he said genius, he naturally meant Tony Stark. Too bad Tony wasn't interested in this stuff at all. If he was really interested, he went to play Mecha. Mecha is a man's romance. Lorna didn't care so much. She just asked casually. Afterwards, she grabbed Bai Xi's hand and said, Bai, look at what I've mastered, the latest. After speaking, Lorna used Bai Xi's strength to step on the hood of Bumblebee. Woo, Bumblebee shook the protest immediately, but the protest was ineffective. If it annoys Lorna, it will be thrown 10 blocks away with a wave of it. Who said that all the parts of its body can be controlled by Lorna? Lorna stood on Bumblebee and looked at Bai Xi with a smile. Open your hands and slowly face down. A green light flashed from the palm of her hand, and she carefully controlled her body and slowly flew up. Her body slowly rotated more than 10 meters above the ground, and countless pale green rays of light surrounded her, looking quite dreamy. Moreover, the surrounding buildings were not affected in the slightest. Not like the first time it nearly got out of control. The whole street was abolished. But it's so immortal. A stream of arrows flew towards this side. The sensed Lorna waved his left hand directly, and the flow arrow was frozen in the air. It's a flying dart, exactly the same as the last time I saw it. Lorna's ability can sense the situation around him under certain circumstances, so she looked directly into the distance. Looking from a distance, I can only see 4 figures chasing each other between the distant floors. Lorna turned around in the air and said to Bai Xi, I'll take a look. Do you need my help? Bai Xi asked. No need. Let me do it myself. Lorna said vigorously, and the whole person flew over there directly. It's a bit slow, but it's really flight. Bai Xi then leaned on Bumblebee. He knew that Lorna's self-esteem was very strong. Even if he followed in secret, if Lorna found out, he would inevitably be hurt. Master, do you want to go? Bumblebee asked with a voice. The electronic sound is very impressive. No, no one will be Lorna's opponent. Bai Xi said with a smile. She is Polaris. There is an element of violence in the bones, and it is definitely not as harmless as it seems on the surface. Well, on the surface, it also looks tugging, and it is harmless to humans and animals. A figure in a red outfit galloped at the forefront, and then a man wearing a bullseye sash chased after her at the end. There are 2 people in black agent suits, a woman, a man. The woman had nothing in her hands and just ran wildly. While the man had a bow and arrow on his back point, the two fleeing at the front were Erica and Bulsey. Point behind him are Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye Barton. Erica and Bulsey actually came back to life. Point speaking of which, it's not too surprising. Point after all, this is the Marvel universe, and the mysterious power does not know much. Point Erica was the enemy of the Hand Society, and the old man of the Holy Society was resurrected by means. As for why Erica became the killer of the Hand, it's a long story. Point and Bulsey, by accident, he injected a metal similar to adamantium into his body, which made his paralyzed body stand up again without dying directly. Point Erica, who ran at the front, shouted, "I stopped doing things for Jinbian. Why are you still chasing me?" Bulsey said from behind, "You stinky woman is damned. Hurry up and stop for me, no matter who you do things for." Natasha Romanoff in the back shouted. Point the scene looks so chaotic, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 13. Natasha Romanoff vs Lorna. First round. Erica, who was running at the forefront, suddenly stopped. Point because she saw a woman with green light all over her body falling from the sky. Lorna spread her hands and controlled herself to land on the roof. "Who are you?" Erica said a little helplessly. Point he was already being hunted down. There were people blocking the road ahead, and he could fly. "Do you want to torture people like this? Stop for me," Lorna shouted with frost on her face. Point anyone who saw her expression knew that she was extremely angry. Lorna had planned everything for a long time. In such a romantic atmosphere, under the green light, she could kiss Bai Xi as much as possible. Point but now, it's all messed up by a flying dart. So, the irascible Lorna immediately caught up. Point Bulsey behind Erica, Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye all stopped. Point Doobie looked at the green-haired woman who suddenly appeared in front of him. Lorna ignored the others and stared at Bulsey. "You sent flying darts, right?" Lorna said lightly. Point Bulsey looked at Lorna and suddenly recalled the time. If he knew that Lorna had super ability, he would never dare to provoke it. "I did not do it on purpose," Bulsey said regretfully. Point however, the somewhat grumpy Lorna didn't listen to him at all. Lorna senses that Bulsey is covered in metal. Isn't that just right? She pulled her right hand, and Bulsey was directly controlled by her to fly. Point Bulsey found himself out of control. Those metal bones stiffened in an instant. "Do not," he could only shout loudly. Point seeing that she wasn't looking for her, Erica jumped down the windowsill and disappeared instantly. Lorna really ignored her. She just wanted to teach the Bulsey a lesson. Point the first time almost scared her. The second time it was even worse. Lorna doesn't thank Bulsey for inspiring his mutant ability. Point so Lorna was going to sink him straight to the bottom of the ocean. Point like Magneto sinking Wolverine. Point but right now, stop. Hawkeye took off the bow and arrow behind him and shouted at Lorna. Seeing this, Natasha Romanoff could only take out a pistol and aim it at Lorna. Lorna turned to look at them with anger in her eyes. "Put him down and say who you are." Hawkeye took aim and said, "Ah, you going to stop me too?" Lorna just asked. "No, we just want to know what's going on." Natasha Romanoff exited road. "Nothing to understand. Who do you think you are?" The irritable Lorna said that she just wanted to hurry back to Bai Xi now. "Definitely sink the Bulsey before that. We are the FBI." Natasha Romanoff said confidently. Point anyway, SHIELD has been pretending to be the FBI for a day or two. Point sometimes even the FBI people don't know that the companion is SHIELD pretending to be whoever you are. "I hate people pointing guns at me," Lorna said with a cold face. Point just wave. Boom. Natasha Romanoff suddenly couldn't hold the gun in his hand, flew to the side, and smashed to the ground. The same is true for the bow and arrow in Hawkeye Barton's hands. Whoever told him he was made of metal, and even the arrows behind him were thrown to the ground. "Hey, then you don't want to leave?" Natasha Romanoff is not a good temper either. After the training of the Red House, coupled with her combative personality, naturally she will not swallow it. Point she ran straight towards Lorna. Point unfortunately, she didn't know why her body flew backwards uncontrollably. Point as an agent, how can there be something on him that Lorna doesn't control? Hawkeye is the same. just about to take a step. The whole person flew out. Then he directly hit the bellows and fainted. The scene instantly becomes Natasha Romanoff vs Lorna. The first collision of two women. Neither of them knew that the other also had an extraordinary relationship with Bai Xi. But at this moment, the two looked at each other with sparks in their eyes. Natasha Romanoff deliberately charged towards Lorna again. Then she found that it was her waist that flew up uncontrollably with her. She immediately undid the belt around her waist. Boom, she fell directly on the roof, no longer under Lorna's control. Natasha Romanoff landed on the ground in a dashing posture, with one hand on the ground and one hand behind her. A standard Black Widow signature move. A smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, and she finally knew why. This green-haired woman can control something with a magnetic field. I have to say, Natasha Romanoff is very smart. Because she is the most powerful Black Widow ever. Black Widow is not only about combat ability, but a full range of training. It is very rare for her to achieve all this in 3 years. Natasha Romanoff, who is no longer under Lorna's control, finally gets close to Lorna. But Lorna's expression remained the same. While holding Bai Xi in the air, she grabbed the other hand to the side and then pulled. The metal piece on the roof was pulled directly by her and smashed towards Natasha Romanoff. But who would have thought? Natasha Romanoff jumped up and with the power of the metal pieces in the air, rushed towards Lorna. Lorna's accident, coupled with the scarcity of combat experience, was thrown by Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff grabbed Lorna with both legs and threw Lorna down. Lorna was hit directly on the roof. But she quickly took control of the metal and knocked Natasha Romanoff aside. Lorna quickly controlled herself to fly. "You pissed me off," Lorna said angrily. She has some pain all over her body now, but fortunately she was used to the pain before. With a wave of the hand controlling Bai Xi was directly thrown a street away. "Right on my mind." In the face of Lorna's wrath, Natasha Romanoff seemed eager to try. Super ability? She has seen a lot. But so what? Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 14 Bai Xi and -039. S strength. Natasha Romanoff continued to run towards Lorna. However, she soon found herself underestimating Lorna. Lorna opened her hands to the side. Then, as if grabbing something hard, she closed it in the middle. Countless metals, iron sheets, and even air conditioners flew over. It seemed to cover the entire sky and then flew towards Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff, who was about to fight a battle, was dumbfounded when he saw this situation. At the moment, there is only one thought: run. Carrying Hawkeye Barton, who was still in a coma, she jumped towards the balcony of the opposite building. In the next instant, countless sundries were piled up where she was just now. Humph. Fortunately, Lorna had no intention of killing her after all. Lorna has never killed anyone. On the other side, Bai Xi was thrown by Lorna for an unknown distance, but he got up from the ground without any pain. He wanted to run away quickly. The green-haired woman was simply a devil. He was completely restrained. But at this moment, a flying dart precisely hit his eyebrows. Keng. The flying dart sank into his forehead, but made a metal crashing sound. Bai Xi took off the flying darts on the head. The flying darts have a special shape, pure black, like a bat with wings spread. Bai Xi saw that Bai Xi was hit between the eyebrows by himself, and was not dead, just a hole was broken. He also calmly removed the flying darts. Suddenly a little surprised. Are you Bai Xi or Wolverine? No wonder it can be resurrected from the dead. There is something. It's you. Bai Xi also recognized Bai Xi. If it wasn't for him and the green-haired woman, he wouldn't be so miserable. So he was going to take revenge on Bai Xi first and make the green-haired woman suffer. Bai Xi is not a good guy. So he backhanded the bat flying darts towards Bai Xi. Bai Xi just turned sideways and then directly reached out and grabbed the bat flying darts. Batman's fighting ability is obviously beyond the Bai Xi. Therefore, he moved directly and instantly in front of Bai Xi. Then one punch. When he was about to hit the Bai Xi stopped. Almost got a serious punch. In that way, wouldn't it directly reveal his own strength? Bai Xi was also taken aback. He didn't know how Bai Xi suddenly appeared in front of him, and the fierce punching style almost knocked his head off point seeing Bai Xi stop. He also quickly shot to knock Bai Xi down point. Bai Xi is not only ranged, he is also a master of fighting point after all. He's an ordinary person, and he doesn't have super ability. If he doesn't know how to fight, he can't play. However, his fist was directly caught by Bai Xi, who then threw his backhand over his shoulder. Fights are fun. Bai Xi had a disdainful smile on his face. Point his strength, dealing with such little ants, is already casual point, although his current hold card is only a serious punch point, but it doesn't matter anymore. Point. Bai Xi knew that the situation was not good, and he couldn't take Bai Xi in a short time point, so I just wanted to run away. Point. He grabbed a handful of flying darts and threw it at Bai Xi, then turned and ran. Bai Xi naturally dodged easily, and then saw that Bai Xi wanted to escape. Point. Coincidentally, Bai Xi also lost his mind to continue playing point mainly. Bai Xi is just too bad. Point, and she's not a girl, so she can't wipe her oil. Bai Xi's right hand suddenly had an unremarkable unpretentiousness. Point. Like a set of horses, Bai Xi threw it on the head first, and then threw it directly at the galloping Bai Xi. Point. Bai Xi sensed something, and naturally wanted to avoid it. What's the age? You still use this old antique? Bai Xi laughed inwardly and glanced at the noose, almost unable to hold back his smile. Point. But in the next second, he saw the originally bland noose of mantra, as if he sensed his ridicule. Ding. The mantra lasso directly emitted a golden light, and then wrapped around him for a moment, as if it was tracking a target. Point. Bai Xi couldn't send out any power in an instant. Point. Then he was dragged back by Bai Xi. Boom. Bai Xi was thrown to the ground, the mantra lasso terrifying him. Point. A mantra penetrated him. What are you doing here? Kill Erica. Why? Because Kim didn't appreciate her so much. Where is Kim Bun? Do not know. Bai Xi said whatever Bai Xi asked. Point. Although Bai Xi has long known the role of the mantra lasso, at the moment still feels very satisfied. Point. It is indeed the favorite of Wonder Woman Diana. Point. Not just for bundling. How much money do you have? Lana, who was floating over, saw this scene and asked curiously. Bai Xi also twitched the corners of his mouth when he heard this question. 50,000 knives. Bai Xi was a little embarrassed. He didn't want to say it, but under the influence of the mantra, he couldn't hide it. So, phew. You are Jin Bing's #1 thug. Bai Xi is a little weird. I took care of more than 10 women, and I have to buy equipment. Bai Xi was forced to tell the truth under the influence of the mantra. Damn you. Lana couldn't listen anymore after hearing the words. She waved her hand immediately, and Bai Xi flew up. Bai Xi quickly took back the mantra lasso and let Bai Xi go on, not knowing what shocking things would happen. Point. Afterwards, Bai Xi saw Lana throw the Bai Xi onto the Hornet and then galloped all the way to the sea. Point. The port of New York is the largest port. Point. There are hundreds of thousands of containers here every day. With a wave of Lana's hand, a container was opened, and she threw the Bai Xi in, and then the iron bars tied the Bai Xi directly, and then directly controlled the container, and threw it into the sea. Bai Xi is dead, unless it's Wolverine. Point. Originally, the whole body was made of metal, and it was bound. There are a lot of manuscripts, and there are also a lot of explosions. Old authors and new books are never too supervising. Please ask for data. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. Iron-039, only 100 million points stronger than him. The embarrassed figure of Natasha Romanoff came to the street. Point. She held the symbiotic talisman hanging around her neck in her hand. At the moment, the symbiotic talisman was a little hot. Point. She didn't know what the reason was, but looking at the empty street, there was nothing. Point. Is it Yelena? Natasha Romanoff thought about it, then took out the phone and called inside SHIELD to talk about Lana. SHIELD has always claimed to be in charge of these mysteries. In other words, like to be nosy. Unexpectedly, as soon as Natasha Romanoff finished speaking, the opposite Alexander Pierce was Hydra style ecstasy. Now he's still SHIELD director, not handing over to Nick Fury. Cough. Natasha Romanoff, you did a great job. Come back quickly. There is a new task for you, and this matter is left to others to handle. Hanging up. Alexander turned and called Crossbones to find out Lorna's identity and location. Natasha Romanoff is still very obedient. Although she was a little puzzled why she was not allowed to continue the investigation directly. But thinking about not being able to meet that weird woman again, he just left. Even if you are going to face Lorna again, you must be prepared. At least you can't bring anything under her control. You are so powerful, and you don't tell me? Lorna questioned Bai Xi in the car. She knew that Bai Xi was very good at fighting. After all, she was rescued from a few gangsters back then. But she didn't expect that Bai Xi would hit the bullseye at will. That bullseye wasn't easy. If it weren't for her ability restraint, I'm afraid they wouldn't be an opponent. Bai Xi stretched one hand out of the window and felt the file size of the wind in a paw shape. No, you didn't ask. Bai Xi said. How strong are you? Lorna stared into Bai Xi's eyes and asked. Bai Xi pretended to concentrate on driving, but in fact the steering wheel didn't move. He pulled his hand back and made a gesture. Just a little bit stronger than him. The distance between the thumb and the index finger is really not big. Up to infinite zoom. Lorna rolled his eyes at him, knowing that he wouldn't speak. Fortunately, Bumblebee is home safely. It pulled into the garage as fast as it could, then turned off. And the peaceful lives of Bai Xi and Lorna seemed to be broken. After Bai Xi exposed his identity as the third largest shareholder of Stark Group, Tony and Obadiah found him. Obviously, Tony wasn't stupid either. He's not really completely unguarded by Obadiah. He's just confident. Without Obadiah, the She Stark Group is still the She Stark Group. Without him, that History Stark Group is a fart. So, he didn't take Obadiah as a threat. Plus Obadiah was his uncle, and he was not so vigilant when he saw the big one, since he was a child. But Obadiah has had ambitions from the beginning. This is normal. The Stark Group is getting bigger and bigger, and whoever controls it can be called the richest man in the world. In this world, the most profitable industry is always arms. Those who appear to be the richest man in the world are nothing compared to these arms dealers. Obadiah, of course, has his own ambitions. He wants to kick Tony Stark out of the game and take control of the Stark Group himself. Definitely, he needs enough shares before that. Bai Xi looked at Obadiah, who was sitting in front of him. He had a bald head, his beard was not yet white, and he had a calm smile on his face. Mr. Bai, I bought the shares of She Stark Group in your hands at twice the market price. Obadiah believes that no one can refuse. Because even if the stock of She Stark Group rises, it will be difficult for more. You know what? Tony gave me more. Bai Xi replied casually. The answer made Obadiah frown. Tony again. Tony had given him enough, but Obadiah clearly wanted more. Ah, you sure you don't think about it anymore, Mr. Bai? Obadiah threatened. Bai Xi frowned. What? Are you threatening me? Or are you trying to find terrorists to kidnap me? Mr. Obadiah. Obadiah was taken aback. He quickly waved his hand and said, how is it possible? I'm not that kind of person. I just asked casually. Hopefully, smart people live longer. Bai Xi snorted coldly. Lorna, who was serving tea and water, also looked coldly at Obadiah in front of her, as if he could sink into the sea at any moment. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little embarrassing, Obadiah left immediately. Now he doesn't seem to have the idea of buying a murderer. Power and money are really poisonous, and will constantly corrupt a person until it drives him more and more crazy, and becomes a real lunatic. Obadiah is in this situation until finally choosing to kill Tony Stark. Beep. Why are you so busy today? Lorna complained at the doorbell. She had just eaten a mouthful of braised pig's feet, but someone came again. Could it be that they came to eat rice? Bai Xi found that Lorna likes dishes with a lot of oil and salt. Maybe he's used to it. In fact, the poor in the lighthouse country do not have to worry about eating enough. There's that kind of high calorie and high sugar food for the poor. Definitely, you can see a lot of black people are obviously poor, but they are fat to death point. But Lorna is not very fat, but no matter how much she eats, she is so thin and maintains her perfect figure. Lorna opened the door and immediately saw a row of men in black with sunglasses standing outside the door. FBI, ma'am, those who took the lead directly showed their fake documents. There are still more updates today. Please ask for flowers, evaluation tickets, and monthly tickets from the big guys. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 16, The Perception of Hydra and the Ancient One. Is there a problem? Lorna asked immediately when she saw the documents. She's not afraid of the FBI. We have something to take you back for investigation, Crossbones said. Lorna's expression immediately cooled down. How was this found? Crossbones was heartbroken when he saw this with Black Widow Natasha Romanoff's report. Hydra already knew how strong this woman was, so I immediately found her with the fastest speed and wanted to absorb her into Hydra. SHIELD''S power is still very large, and it can also pretend to be various bureaus such as FBI or CIA, so Lorna was quickly found. Hydra. Hail. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from inside. Crossbones and others seemed to have moved their DNA, and immediately responded. Hydra hail. It seems that SHIELD is almost penetrated by Hydra. Bai Xi came out with a newly bought camera in his hand. It's just that the picture is a little unclear, but everything else is there. You said put this tape out. How long will SHIELD survive? Bai Xi asked with a smile. Crossbones and others immediately responded that they had been tricked. Then there was fear in my heart. Is this man the devil? How did he know about Hydra? Question mark. Crossbones suddenly put his hand on his waist secretly. But Lorna is very sharp-eyed. With a wave of her hand, all the Hydra personnel's guns flew into the air and were thrown aside by her. If you are courting death, you can try to do it. Lorna took a step back, her hands behind her, and the green light flashed. Crossbones had no choice but to look at Bai Xi. He knew this thing couldn't be exposed. Otherwise, the 100-year plan of Hydra will be ruined. After all, SHIELD''s arrogant approach has already aroused many people's displeasure. Even if this video is fake, as long as it is related to them, it will become an excuse for others. The power of the Lighthouse state is complex. SHIELD is actually not as strong as many people think. Especially in the Lighthouse country. SHIELD is only co-sponsored by the 5 gangsters, and it is not even as important as the FBI. Otherwise, SHIELD wouldn't be pretending to be the FBI all day to go out on errands. Let them go. As long as Hydra doesn't come to provoke us, the video won't be sent out. Otherwise, Hydra will just wait to perish completely. Bai Xi said coldly. As soon as Bai Xi finished speaking, Lorna pushed Crossbones and the others suddenly flew out, as if hit by a shell. All hit the road. Let the passing vehicles look dumbfounded. Look at what? Crossbones suddenly angered. Get in the car. The Hydra people all left in despair. Alexander knew about this and suddenly felt a little bad. Hydra has been hiding well these years. Why? Does anyone else know? At this moment, Alexander moved the thought of abdicating the throne. That guy named Nick Fury is not bad. I believe he can definitely lead Hydra to continue to grow with his ability. It's just that he's a black man, which is a little tricky. Nepal, Kamataj. The Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One ignored the noise outside and fiddled with the time gem quietly. This has become her habit. Since she knew that she could follow the drama in advance, she couldn't help but watch what would happen in the later timeline. It's just that the most troublesome thing is to hold back the mentality of pretending to be a comparison and resolutely not to spoil. You can't even change the timeline at will. Any small change can cause huge amounts of mishaps over time. This Ancient One has suffered quite a bit. She also realized a profound truth. Those who play with time will eventually be played with by time. But she just couldn't help it. The countless possible timelines made her addicted, like watching a movie. Time gem. It's poisonous. Looking at it, Ancient One even thought about how to die. Suddenly, the Ancient One found himself in a timeline that was deflected. Originally, she had secretly prepared a timeline that could happen perfectly. But now, that's changed. It would have been a while before Nick Fury became SHIELD director, even in advance of sitting on the throne of the secretary. Ancient One immediately stretched the long river of time. But she soon discovered that there was a past buried by mysterious forces, or rather, erasing. What happened? Ancient One touched his bald head. It was smooth, and painful. Soon, the Ancient One was left alone. This is just a small accident. Nick Fury's early coming on stage did not make any changes to the later timeline. Ancient One put away the time gem. She felt terrible. Maybe it's the energy influence of the dark world that makes me a little dazed. Ancient One thought so. Strange. Hurry up and get hit by a car. Ancient One can't wait to arrange for a car to hit Strange right now. Too bad the time is not yet there. Nick Fury was sitting dumbfounded in the office that belonged to the director alone. He didn't know why the spirited Alexander had to abdicate to him, but he was happy. So elated. Nick Fury wanted to establish a top secret document. A few years ago, after seeing Carol's ability, he had been thinking about it. What's it called? Nick Fury recalled looking at the document at the time. Captain Marvel, the plane that Carol Danvers flew when he was a pilot, seems to be called the Avenger. The plot is getting more and more exciting. Ask for flowers, ask for evaluation tickets, ask for monthly tickets, ask for everything. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 17. As long as you are brave, the goddess of death will take maternity leave. New York Harbor. A container was salvaged from the bottom of the sea. The container was opened, and the bullseye trapped inside was too dead to die, and even the corpse was soaked. He's not a Wolverine after all. He doesn't have that self-healing ability. So, just die horribly. This incident caused a great sensation, and SHIELD knew about it for the first time. Definitely, the most angry is the Underground Emperor, Jinping. Gold, and King. The undisputed king of the underground. Bullseye has always been his #1 thug, and he's not like Erica's kind of mercenary. Bullseye was always there for him. It can be said that what Jin can trust is Bullseye. Others? They are all mercenaries. Therefore, Bullseye died like this, which made him very sad. It was a devastating blow to his career, and there is a saying, blessings come unparalleled, and misfortunes do not come singly. Just when Jinping was about to find out who killed Bullseye, another bad news came. His son, Richard Faith, was killed. Although he did not know who assassinated his son, he knew that it must be his enemy. And his enemies all over the world. Just as Jinping was about to start the war, a group of people approached him. The Hydra personnel, led by Crossbones, said, Mr. Wilson, we are from the Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. With such a long name, do you think I have a lot of time? Kim was leaning on crutches in both hands, nearly twice the size of the Crossbones in front of him. Moreover, his body is not fat, but a piece of muscle. Jinbian is the ceiling of human combat power. If he beats him hard, he can even smash Spider-Man to death. Cough. I will make a long story short, we have a way to resurrect your son. Crossbones said. This made Jinbing's words stagnate. Resurrection. Jin Bing murmured indifferently, yes, as long as you promise to cooperate with us. Crossbones said confidently. What he represents on the surface is SHIELD, but in secret, is actually Hydra. After all, SHIELD has long lived up to its name. Except for a few who did not join Hydra, most of them have been brainwashed long ago. There are only a few hardcores. Hydra is still assessing the risks. For example, Nick Fury, who is now the director, has to say that this is a really good move. And SHIELD has a variety of mysterious items, and the blood of the Skrulls can be used to resurrect people. Then, Crossbones was punched by Kim. Boom. Crossbones smashed a hole in the wall behind him. The other Hydra people were all nervous and wanted to draw their guns, but they were already targeted by Kim Bing's men. Jin and folded his fists and stood up with a cane in one hand. Just because you want me to die for you, Jin. and the corner of his mouth showed disdain. "Do you know who I am?" He leaned his head toward the Hydra man. "I'm Jinbin." Boom. The next moment, all Hydra people were thrown out. Jinbing leaned on crutches, and his huge body walked towards the elevator unswervingly. Resurrection is indeed a good method, but why don't I try a parallel world? The son of the parallel world is not my son. Jinbing, Bai Xi and Lorna don't know that they avoided a trouble point, even if they both have different strengths. But once he was targeted by the underworld boss Jinbing, he would not be able to live in peace. Keeping a low profile is the most important thing for the current Bai Xi. And Lorna thought even simpler: live a peaceful life with Bai Xi. The two seemed to be the only one for each other. Even if Tony Stark would send gadgets from time to time to condolence after all, he was also a shareholder of the Stark Group, so there was no problem with Tony's favor. Moreover, gradually Lorna got bored and learned to cook with Bai Xi. "Lorna, you put too much oil. Why did you add so much salt?" Bai Xi yelled from the kitchen. It turns out that Lorna's hands are clumsy. It would be better for her to use her ability to control cooking. But Lorna is still happy. She felt so happy. And the days passed so quickly. She found that she never seemed to be the same, and she looked the same as before. Definitely the same goes for Bai Xi. She used to think it was the reason Asians didn't age easily, but she found that she didn't change either. It seems to be frozen in the most beautiful years. Congratulations to the host, who has achieved hidden strength for 8 years and received a reward. God level ability copy card. God level ability copy card. The host can copy any ability of any creature it encounters. In the 8th year of coming to this world, Bai Xi looked at the card in his hand. This is absolutely divine. Unfortunately, there is only this one. Definitely, it's not unlimited either. First of all, Bai Xi can meet, not his imagination. Bai Xi also wants to copy OAA's ability, but seeing it or not is the question. He also thought about the invincible Galactus, but that was courting death. Therefore, a premise must be added. Meet and survive. Otherwise, copying will not escape death. To put it bluntly, this god level ability copy card depends on the courage of the user. As long as you are brave, the goddess of death will take maternity leave, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 18 hidden for 10 years. Get a spree. Congratulations to the host for hiding his strength for 9 years and getting the reward. Hot sight. Hot sight. The eyes emit extremely high temperature heat sight, which can reach a temperature higher than the core of the sun. Bai Xi's eyes became hot after receiving the reward, and he felt like he was going to go blind. His eyes pierced through the house just like when Cyclops first activated ability. But fortunately when he was completely stabilized, Bai Xi was overjoyed under the terrified Lorna's gaze. Hot sight. This is Superman's ability, and look at its description. Up to a higher temperature than the core of the sun, this can almost melt everything. Only the Silver Super can have such a powerful power. Invincible. It's a pity that he only has Superman's hot vision and no other abilities. Otherwise, it is truly invincible. Forget it. You can't be too greedy. Bai Xi opened his mouth and muttered. Then Lorna dared to run over and hug him and asked, "What happened?" "It's okay. I just got pink eye just now," Bai Xi said with a serious face. Lorna broke tears into laughter. Since then, Bai Xi has been accustomed to basking in the sun. Although he does not have Superman's body of steel, nor does he have the ability to listen, flight, etc., he only has a hot sight. But this ability, like other Superman abilities, is to accumulate solar energy. To put it bluntly, the reason Superman is so strong is because it stores the absorbed solar energy. So the Kryptonians are getting stronger and stronger when they bask in the sun. Bai Xi's heat vision also needs to accumulate solar energy. The more solar energy absorbed, the higher the temperature and the stronger the strength. Congratulations to the host for hiding his strength for 10 years. This is the second 5 years, and he has obtained the second hidden gift package. Another year has passed. At the moment has come to 2003. It's been 2 years since the events that shocked the Lighthouse Nation, and 5 years before Tony Stark became Iron Man. Definitely, it's been longer since Thanos came to Earth Point, but Bai Xi has been accumulating his strength point. Should I give him a hard look first, or just punch him seriously? By the way, Thanos, the purple sweet potato essence, doesn't seem to have any ability to copy. Definitely, before that, let's open the spree first. Point as before, a golden spree appeared in front of him. Point this time it was even more exquisite, with a hint of purple in the golden light. Point it doesn't seem so rude anymore. Before Bai Xi wanted to complain about the spree like an avorish, but did not admit that he was an avorish. Point he reached out and opened it directly. Point I hope this time I won't break through the villa again. Otherwise Lorna will run over to ask again. Congratulations to the host for opening the spree and obtaining ability. Back in time. Back in time. Sadness turns into a river. What does time turn into? The host can reverse for a certain period of time. The stronger the strength, the longer the reversal time. There is no longest time limit. Seeing this reward, Bai Xi was immediately stunned. Point then, he had another bold idea. Point he directly chose the counter current time, and when the time reversal was over, he looked at the time and went back 3 minutes, and this has already exerted all his strength, causing him to feel a little dizzy now. Point, but he reopened the spree. The result is a turn back in time. Bai Xi is still very satisfied with this ability. Point like space, time is one of several laws, no matter in which worldview. It is a very high-end power. This ability is equivalent to a weakened version of time gem. Point and time gem is a foreign object after all, and this is Bai Xi's own ability. Point, and as long as he is strong enough, it can be done by going back in time to the destruction of the previous universe. Definitely. It's theoretical. Point sometimes theory is always theory and can't become reality, and Bai Xi's personal panel is updated again. Host, Bai Xi. Items, Symbiosis Talisman, Mantra Lasso, Fountain of Youth, Bumblebee, God Level Ability Replica Card. Ability, Batman's Fighting Ability, Teleportation, Advanced Version, Serious Punch, Hot Sight, and Time Travel. Bai Xi came downstairs, and Lorna obviously couldn't detect the change of time. Point only Dormammu's multi-universe Mephisto level strength that transcends time can detect this. There are also some special beings, such as the Ancient One who has been playing with time. Point she suddenly found that time went back 3 minutes, although 3 minutes is not worth mentioning for her life. Point, but she immediately glanced at the Eye of Agamotto that was stored. Time gem lay here quietly. Point she glanced at the timeline again, and there was still not much change. It could even be said that there was no difference. Who is it? Could it be a powerful magician? Ancient One wondered in his heart. Could it be that the magician of Agama has nothing to do and returned to Earth? The Sorcerer Supreme didn't die so easily. Point, and even if the body were dead, who would feel that their soul was dead too? As a Sorcerer Supreme, the expertise is definitely not just playing with time. The soul is also well studied. Point therefore, even though Ancient One died calmly due to lack of funds, the soul has always existed, and he just went to the multi-universe to travel. Point every generation of Sorcerer Supreme, basically. Point it can be seen that they are tired from work, so they choose to find a successor, and then they retire with honor. You have worked hard to protect the Earth for a lifetime. Can't you relax? Then play music and then dance. In short, Ancient One thought about it for a long time, but didn't know who it was. But the seed of curiosity was still planted in her heart. A new day, continue to burst liver. Ask for flowers, ask for evaluation tickets. Ask for monthly tickets, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 19 The Hulk appears. The POWERHOUSE and -039 S hairstyle. Lorna, I love you, Bai Xi said to Lorna affectionately. Lorna looked at him blankly for a moment, and the dishes suspended in the air fell to the ground uncontrollably. Point freshly baked meals are all over the place. What, then? Lorna blushed and ran upstairs. Confess to me. What should I do? What? An idiot for making me wait so long. Lorna thought to herself. Point and Bai Xi didn't know what happened. Why isn't Lorna ecstatic? No way. Looking at the food in this place, Bai Xi can only choose, and snapped his fingers. Back in time. Sadness really flows against the current. Lana returned to his eyes, still smiling and using ability to control the plate to fly to the table. "Bai, it's time to eat," Lana said to Bai Xi. Bai Xi secretly thought that the timing was not right and immediately said, "I'm going to starve to death." Then, "Eat more." As Lana said, a plate of chicken legs flew directly in front of Bai Xi. This ability is really too convenient. The key is that it is enough to install or copy Lana's ability. Bai Xi shook his head and rejected this exciting idea. Lana's ability is his ability. Lana's is his. Lana is his, so there is absolutely no need to waste this only god level ability copy card point, and he is already strong enough now. Serious punch, teleportation, hot sight, back in time. Any ability can make him walk sideways on the earth. What's more, it is superimposed now, and it is simply able to fight and run without being instantly killed, and able to go back in time. Drip, drip. Nick Fury picked up the phone and called into the phone twice. "Monitor." Immediately, General Ross is really troublesome. He dropped the phone and immediately complained. General Ross not only was originally a high-ranking person, but the important thing is that he still has a relationship with his family. His daughter-in-law's family is very prestigious, otherwise how could a brain like General Ross become a general? Mariah Hill in front of Nick Fury asked, "What about Kimberly? Send someone to follow up too. He made a time collider, and you thought others didn't know about it?" Nick Fury sneered. SHIELD, everywhere, I see the. Young Mariah Hill twisted her hair, turned and left. Mariah Hill has just been named Deputy Director of SHIELD by Nick Fury. It's time for passion and energy. As for the good old Phil Coulson, who's been with Nick Fury, an old man who is about to be bold in middle age, and a young and beautiful female agent. Both men know how to choose. Even Nick Fury's marinated egg is not exempt. After so many years, Nick Fury, who had an inch, finally lost his hair at all. It is very officially called a marinated egg. Nick Fury pressed a button, went straight to the top floor, and left in a helicopter. General Ross can really play. His daughter's boyfriend, a doctor named Bruce Banner, inadvertently turned himself into a big green guy with gamma rays. Just call him the Hulk. As Nick Fury imagined, the world is getting more and more dangerous, and he also believes that there are definitely not a few super ability people like Captain Marvel, and aliens may continue to invade the Earth. Therefore, he must gather some super ability people so that the Earth can respond when it encounters a crisis. Raw. Just as Nick Fury was thinking, he was awakened by Raw. The big guy whom he just named Hulk had nothing to do under the suppression of firepower. Instead, Rage started to fight back. But General Ross was even more excited, vowing to capture the Hulk to study. Nick Fury is also very excited. It would be nice if he brought the Hulk back to SHIELD. Anyway, no matter who took him away, Dr. Banner's fate would not be better. Meanwhile, another team from SHIELD prepares to monitor Jinping. But they came too late. They ignored Jinping's name, the Underground King. Jin also can control all the dark forces of the Lighthouse country, and it is not just because he is muscular and strong. More because he is clever and cunning. Kim has always known about this little move of SHIELD, so, taking advantage of this time, he directly ordered the people under him to turn on the time collider. It was the best way he could think of. Being placed underground by him. There are huge amounts of time colliders, and they can also be called quantum colliders. A direct bang, but, in an instant, the entire New York City was without power. The whole city seemed to be out of order. It's still night. Squeak. On the road, countless people stepped on the brakes frantically. Bumblebee also stopped by the side of the road. Bai Xi and Lana opened the door to the street. They have just finished their candlelight dinner, and Bai Xi is about to find a romantic opportunity to confess to Lana again. Like a Ferris wheel, but this time. All New York has a power outage, and everyone on the Ferris wheel is probably scared to death, right? What happened? Lana asked suspiciously. She has never seen any big city without power. What's more, this is New York. The rest of the Lighthouse country is out of power. Not even New York. This is a metropolis. Do not know. Bai Xi shook his head. Could it be that Iron Man was born ahead of schedule and then created a new energy source? What an international joke. The Ancient One probably jumped out immediately. Just after thinking about this, Bai Xi saw a bald head in a yellow magician robe with hands on his back appear in front of him. Please ask for flowers, ask for evaluation tickets, ask for monthly tickets, save a lot of manuscripts, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 20. Use God level ability copy cards. Standing in the dark street, Ancient One looked up at a billboard ahead with his hands on his back. The timeline has changed. If anyone approaches Ancient One, she will be heard muttering to herself. The timeline has changed, and it has gotten bigger. It's nothing like the future that Ancient One sees, so much so that she, who was still indulging in the long river of time, had to come over to take a look at the scene. Playing with time. She was played with time again. There is not much difference between what she saw and what she saw. At most it was just a dead bullseye. By the way, it seems that there was a little gap from the bullseye, and then the entire timeline changed. But as the Ancient One prepares to set things right, she sees no change further into the future. Iron Man still appears, Chitauri still invades, so this leaves Ancient One a little bit confused. Time has indeed been affected, but only now. Ancient One finds that multi-universe does have an impact, but not those dimensions after Mephisto. She is not ready to care. The world is corrective. But just then, Ancient One noticed someone staring at her bald head. Who is so rude? Ancient One turned his head suddenly and saw a young man walking towards her with a smile on his face. I saw the young man politely say, "Are you a magician? I see you are wearing a magician robe and have the hairstyle of a strong man." Hearing Bai Xi's words, Ancient One's face suddenly showed a very awkward smile. A light-hearted smile, as if everything is under control. Maybe. Ancient One nodded with a smile, then walked away from Bai Xi. Turning around the alley, Ancient One reacted. What does this strong man's hairstyle mean? She touched her head. It was a little smooth. Where does she have hair? Bai, who is that person? Lana hurried over to ask. Passerby, Bai Xi said casually. Ancient One just didn't know Bai Xi's attitude change. Otherwise, I would never have smiled just now. Bai Xi is also smiling now, because he looks at the prompt happily. The God level ability copy card is successfully used. The object of use, Ancient One. Copy ability has been selected. Select ability as mirror space. The host can use the mirror space with other energy. The range is not limited. When Bai Xi approached Ancient One, he directly used the God level ability copy card on him. The reason is very simple. On Earth, Bai Xi has never seen a more powerful existence than the Ancient One. It's impossible for him to go all the way to find someone to copy this card, right? Definitely. Saying 10,000 and 10,000, or he thinks the mirror space is handsome enough. Otherwise, why didn't he copy other abilities? Well known. Strong or not is a temporary thing. Handsome or not is a lifetime thing. Definitely, the ability of mirror space is strong enough and buggy enough. The ability that involves space and time is not simple at first. Lana didn't know why Bai Xi laughed. She touched one of her green hair and thought to herself, could it be that Bai Xi likes bald hair? But the next second, power was restored to New York City. This is the metropolis, and the response is naturally extremely fast. Moreover, the city has numerous power supply systems. Definitely this still can't avoid power outages in some places, but in fact, for whatever reason, everyone understands. I don't know, and can't explain it here. Then, Bai Xi and Lorna saw a figure suddenly appear from the sky and hit the billboard that Ancient One had been looking at before. Boom. The billboard was immediately smashed out with the word big. Bai Xi and Lorna looked at each other, then approached. As soon as I came over, I saw a woman wearing a leather cover all over. Judging by her figure, she is a woman. Black and white outfit, with a face mask, a hood, and a spider pattern in front of him. She fell to the ground awkwardly, looking at Bai Xi and Lorna. To ease her embarrassment, she said, "Hi, I'm Ghost Spider-Man. How are you?" Bai Xi and Lorna looked at each other. "It doesn't look like a bad guy," Lorna said. Bai Xi nodded. Ghost Spider-Man asked suddenly, "Don't you know me? I'm Ghost Spider-Man." "Oh, we got it." Lorna rolled her eyes immediately. Listening to the voice of this Ghost Spider-Man, It seems young. It's a little brat. What kind of look are you looking at? You really don't know me, Spider-Gwen. Wondered. Her name is Gwen Stacy, and in her world, a radioactive spider bites her, turning her into a ghost Spider-Man, and that hapless Peter Parker dies by her side. The reason why I came here is because Jinbing's time collider opened the door to another parallel world. This is why the Ancient One said that the world would have the power to correct. Kim is absolutely impossible to succeed. When Gwen figured it all out, he was a little dazed. She was still in New York, but it was not the New York of her world. Her relatives and friends are gone. Bai Xi and Lorna, who had chatted with Gwen, also looked at each other. Do you know what's going on here? Bai Xi asked. What's going on? He doesn't understand either. I don't know. I just sneaked into Jinbing's building, and I was sucked away by a black hole. Spider-Gwen bowed his head aggrieved. She thought that she was just thrown out of the golden building, but she didn't expect to come directly to another world. This is a pity. Hearing this, Bai Xi immediately knew it was Jinbing's ghost. So he comforted Gwen and said, "Hello child, congratulations on coming to the main universe." Gwen looked at him suspiciously. Old author, save a lot of manuscripts, never supervise, ask for all data, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books, charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons, immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 21. Polaris. Lorna, who was born into a big scene. No, I have to stop Jinbing. Confused, Gwen quickly found the target point. Even in a different world, Kim is still a badass as a Spider-Man. She couldn't just sit back and watch. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. This is the life motto of spiders. Gwen is so pathetic. Lorna pulled Bai Xi's arm. In Lorna's view, Gwen is a homeless person like her, and even worse than her after all. Gwen came to a strange world from a world of her own. Lorna also wanted to send Gwen back if she could. Yes. Bai Xi nodded. Gwen looked at the two, not knowing what to do. Then, let's help her, Lorna said. Now that Lorna has spoken, Bai Xi naturally agreed. So, the two looked at Gwen. Gwen raised his hand and nodded. I know where Jinbing's nest is. Then, get in the car before the others arrive, Bai Xi said. At the moment, a lot of whistles had already sounded in the distance. Apparently Kim didn't want to hide what he did. Sitting on Bumblebee. According to Gwen's directions, Bumblebee even performed a blade overtaking. When they came to Jinbing's building, the three got out of the car, and Bumblebee left by himself. Gwen saw this scene a little weird. Lorna laughed. Artificial intelligence. Bai Xi praised Lorna's wit. I guess it's underground, but I don't know how to get in. Gwen asked Bai Xi and Lorna, who were natives after all. Just call right in, Lorna said with a confident smile directly. There was a wicked smile on the corner of his mouth, which almost bent Gwen. Coupled with her green hair, that is beyond the times. It is really bohemian. Lorna walked directly towards the building. Immediately a gang member came up. He even held a gun arrogantly in his hand. But Lorna waved his left hand directly, and the two gatekeepers were thrown away. It was only then that Gwen realized that this somewhat non-mainstream young lady in front of her had a special ability. What is the advantage of gangsters, in addition to the number of people, is that they have guns when their firearms are useless. Of course they are facing a massacre. Lorna doesn't even kill people, just kills their gun. Stream after stream of gang members rushed out, but they found that whatever weapon they were holding was useless. They all flew out of their hands in an instant. The green-haired woman had a green light in her hand, and they would be thrown away with a wave. She's a monster. At this moment, a frightened gangster suddenly shouted. This caught Lorna's attention. She turned her head directly, tilted her head and sneered. I hate when people call me a monster. She stretched out her left hand and grabbed the little bastard. The little bastard's body suddenly flew up uncontrollably. When Lorna raised his hand, the punk hit the ceiling. Before it was over, Lorna controlled him and threw him all the way, eventually throwing him out of the building. For a split second, all the gang members looked at Lorna with the same eyes as a big guy. Countless guns flew in midair, standing in a row honestly, and the scene was incomparably spectacular. Lorna took off slowly, her hands merging, and then suddenly opening. Boom. All the gang members were sent flying by guns in the air. Boom. All The glass on the ground floor of the building shattered in an instant. Bai Xi looked at Lorna at the moment and said with emotion, sure enough, like Magneto, they both like big scenes. I have to say, Lorna is really handsome now. Gwen on the side was dumbfounded. She suddenly felt that being Ghost Spider-Man was weak. Is this what Bai Xi meant by the main universe? Terrible. The elevator has been cut off. Gwen, who recovered, looked at the elevator and said immediately, humph. Lorna snorted coldly. She moved her hand. Crack. Catcher. The elevator came to the first floor immediately, and then the elevator door made a sound like being slammed open. Lorna didn't speak and took the lead in walking in. Bai Xi and Gwen were right behind her. Boom. Even. The elevator door didn't close, and it slammed to the bottom. Fortunately, neither Bai Xi nor Gwen are ordinary people, and they are not dizzy. You are already late. The elevator door was forcibly opened, and Jinning's huge body turned his back to them and said without looking back. Kim didn't seem to be as big as two people's bodies. At the moment a child was held by him. There was another Bullseye from a parallel world looking at him respectfully. The time collider has been destroyed by me, and it can't be reversed. Jin Bayan turned around, leaning on a cane in his hand, extremely arrogant. How are you going to solve this problem? He looked at the three Bai Xi and asked. Although he didn't know any of the three people in front of him. Not even Daredevil, who has been against him all the time. Gwen looked at the collider that had been scrapped and suddenly became a little angry. That means she can't go back. Bai Xi snapped his fingers at this time. It's simple. Everyone looked at him. If you can't solve the problem, then solve the person who asked the problem. Bai Xi said indifferently, as if he was telling a common thing. Isn't it the end of killing you? And these. The meaning of Bai Xi is very simple. Let Bullseye from other worlds die again. It won't affect the world. Butterflies in South America flap their wings, and it turns out they don't cause hurricanes elsewhere. The world has the power to correct. What about me? Gwen's angle is strange, because she's also from another world, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Is this the power of heat vision? Cough. You are beautiful. You don't count. Bai Xi was joking and was glared by Lorna. At this time, Jin did not know the reason why the villain died of too much talk. He chose to attack directly. His sneak attack is also different from others. He doesn't say a word, just do it. Jin and raised the cane in his hand and faced the three. Not but Gwen shouted immediately. Jin Bing's crutches are not just decorations. He is an old man with lasers and smoke inside. For him, as long as he can kill Deadman, he doesn't care about the means. That's what the underworld is. However, Jinami, who raised his cane, found that the button could not be pressed. When Lorna raised his hand, the crutches flew away uncontrollably. Jin Bing's strength is indeed very strong, but he only has fighting ability and physical fitness, even if his strength represents the ceiling of mankind. But mutant doesn't tell you that. Especially Lorna's ability. 1. For each, the child is handed over to you, Gwen. Bai Xi said. He happens to have some itchy hands. Take gold and practice his hands. After all, he hadn't fought anyone for several years. It's true that I haven't been a big brother for many years. Gwen looked bewildered. She is the weakest co-author. Moreover, what should Jin Bing's child do? But before she could ask, she found out that Bai Xi and Jin had disappeared. I saw a golden light in Bai Xi's hand, and the golden light flashed as if the entire space had become the color of mirror, and then he and Jin Bayan disappeared. The whole world turned upside down. Jin Bayan even felt a little unsteady, but his thighs as thick as elephant legs were firmly fixed on the ground. Even if the ground he was standing on before had become the ceiling. The whole world seems to have turned golden, as if looking at himself in a mirror. It's the same old bronze mirror wherever he looked. He seemed to see his own reflection. Who are you, Kim? Did speak up again. A hero of justice. Bai Xi remembered the classic lines and said, "Shit, Jin." Ting smiled fiercely and then rushed in front of Bai Xi. He just spoke. To lower Bai Xi's vigilance. It seems that Jin is not very large, but it is all muscles, so the explosive speed is amazing. It's like the cheetahs start up, and you can even hear the wind. Almost instantly, he came to Bai Xi, as if shrinking into an inch. The fist that can blow other people's heads is right in front of him. And without any pause, the fist slammed down directly. Jin Bian almost saw the scene where Bai Xi's head was smashed into a watermelon by him. Even if Bai Xi looks a little weird. However, Jin Bing's fist just hit the air, not even an after image. Bai Xi has moved behind him instantly. He grabbed Jin Bing's shoulders with both hands and threw him. Jin Bing's weight of several hundred kilograms was instantly pressed on him. Jin Bian was like a nimble fat man lying on the ground. He swept towards Bai Xi next to him. Unfortunately, Bai Xi disappeared again in an instant. What is this ability, Jin? Bian finally got a little annoyed. Teleport, Bai Xi said with a smile. No wonder space ability is juxtaposed with time. Playing people is really cool. That's right. Bai Xi is about taking gold and testing his own strength. Jinbin's combat power is known as the ceiling of mankind. Only the captain of the United States can compete with him. Definitely, this refers to the combat power of pure human physical fitness. The world of Marvel, there are too many people who are not human. Just a magician can beat Jin to the point where he can't find the North. Therefore, Bai Xi didn't bully Jinbing, and instead of teleporting, he used his fighting skills to fight Jinbing for a while. Bai Xi found himself despite having Batman's fighting ability. But practical experience is still lacking. Failed to fully integrate his fighting ability into his own. So scared in a cold sweat. Jinbing's fist wind rubbed his chin over. If hit, he would probably fall to the ground instantly. Brains could be knocked out. I won't play with you. After Bai Xi finished speaking, he dodged directly into the distance. Jin Bian was pissed off by Bai Xi's gangster-like play. He kept thinking of a way to escape. It's a pity that this mirror-like world has no exit at all. He looked at Bai Xi in the distance and felt something in his heart. Could it be, today is the day of my Jinbing's burial? The next second, Jinbing saw Bai Xi slowly raise his head. Bai Xi's face was a little serious, and the moment he raised his head, his eyes turned scarlet, sizzle hot. Sight. With Bai Xi's eyes widening, Jin was hit by the heat without any reaction. And in an instant, his huge muscle group had no ability to resist and was melted by the high temperature of the heat vision. This was the first time Bai Xi saw someone melt directly in front of his eyes, and he almost couldn't hold back. Knowing this earlier, I punched it seriously. No wonder Superman basically doesn't use this trick directly on people. It's disgusting. Bai Xi muttered to himself. This has not reached the strongest level yet. The strongest level can reach temperatures that exceed the core of the sun, and basically everything will be melted in an instant. Jin Bian didn't even leave a pool of blood because his blood was evaporated by the high temperature. The real world evaporates afterwards. Bai Xi sensed the outside world and reluctantly unlocked the mirror space. He wanted to leave, but Lorna and Gwen were stuck. It was the official people who trapped them, and Lorna didn't have any cover. Unless she didn't live in the lighthouse country in the future, it was better not to do it directly. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 23 Y Haven 039. You grown old? Racial ability. Lorna and Gwen stood together. Bai Xi had been metal bound by Lorna. Jinbing's son from another world was captured. A bald black man was facing them, one eye constantly scanning the two superheroes, and his face was serious. I've seen your profile, Nick Fury said to Lorna. After he took over SHIELD, he read all the top secret information. Alexander didn't dare to leave anything to Nick Fury. The fool knew there was a problem. There is no need to delete Lorna's files, since they were not counted by Hydra anyway. At that time, Nick Fury was moved to recruit Lorna into the Avengers. So, what? Lorna responded, I have no malice. Nick Fury saw the green light on Lorna's hand, and said immediately. They are all metal objects such as guns now, but they are not Lorna's opponents. What's the matter? New here, just Then, Nick Fury heard a voice behind him. He turned to look. I saw Bai Xi standing in front of the honest man Phil Coulson. In a trance. Nick Fury seems to have returned to 8 years ago. He has a particularly strong memory of that year. If it weren't for that bat flying darts, he wouldn't have gone to Ohio, and naturally he wouldn't have met Captain Marvel. The woman who made him call the event her airplane nicknamed the Avengers. Therefore, he deeply remembered Bai Xi. Because Bai Xi is Asian, and the only one who is not afraid of their FBI status. However, 8 years later, he has changed from a small inch head with 2 eyes to an old bald head with 1 eye. But the Bai Xi in front of him, just as he was in the past, with undiminished elegance and handsome looks apparently. Phil Coulson also remembered Bai Xi in front of him. So he coughed twice and said, "Sir, I'm not new here." Phil Coulson touched the top of his bald head, and he was about to cry. "Really? It seems that you are still not liked by this braised egg." Bai Xi laughed. Nick Fury came over immediately. "Sir, we meet again." His words are very heavy, and the foreign language is last. "What's the matter? Fake FBI?" Bai Xi looked at him and said. Nick Fury almost had a dry cough, too. "I just have a few questions." Nick Fury said. It was as if there was a knock on Bai Xi's door at that time. However, at that time he and Phil Coulson were fooled away by Bai Xi. Now it seems that Nick Fury is very sure that the bat flying darts was lost by Bai Xi. "Why are you here?" Nick Fury asked. "We were just passing by," Bai Xi said, as if nothing had happened. "Do you think I would believe it?" Nick Fury stared at Bai Xi and asked. "Passing by and walking to Jinbing's lair. What an unusual path you've taken." "What? Fake FBI? Are you going to arrest me? I'm a shareholder of the Stark Group. I believe Tony will be very willing to help me in this lawsuit." Bai Xi smiled and took out his mobile phone and directly dialed Tony Stark's number. "Tony, there's a fake FBI trying to catch me." "Oh, my dear Bai, tell me the names of those idiots, and I'll sue them bankrupt." Tony Stark's voice came from the phone. "No, sir, this is a misunderstanding." Nick Fury gave Phil Coulson a look, and Phil Coulson came over immediately. Bai Xi nodded to Phil Coulson, the tool man, and put away his phone. "Can my girlfriend and I go?" Bai Xi asked. "One last question," Nick Fury said. "How did you manage to not get old in 8 years?" Nick Fury stared at Bai Xi with 1 eye, as if wanting to see a clue. Bai Xi smiled calmly and said, "This is a racial ability you don't understand." He tapped Nick Fury on the shoulder and left with Lorna and Gwen. Neither Nick Fury nor Phil Coulson dared to stop. First, it is not an opponent, and secondly, there is no reason. This is the case with the Lighthouse Country. Without any evidence, it can only go to court. In particular, Bai Xi is also a rich man. "Sir, Jinbing was not found." At this time, an agent came over and said, "I see, Kim is probably dead." Nick Fury said. He appeared suddenly. Phil Coulson also said to Nick Fury, "Sir, do you believe him?" "I believe in shit." Nick Fury suddenly broke the foul language. After all, he is a famous faggot man. When it comes to racial ability, aren't there blacks less likely to age? Follow him. Nick Fury said he has realized that Bai Xi is not easy. Perhaps Bai Xi is also a so-called super ability person. Was the guy Captain Marvel mentioned back then? Nick Fury was taken aback because of what Captain Marvel Carol had described to him. Asian, still driving a sports car. Definitely, mostly because he's young. For a split second, Nick Fury even felt like a man behind the scenes surfaced. But actually Bai Xi did nothing. If that's right, Natasha Romanoff was his neighbor as a kid. Phil Coulson reminded at the right time. Nick Fury calmed down instantly. "You go and arrange it yourself. You can't let Natasha Romanoff know all this. Remember, it's all." Nick Fury looked Phil Coulson in the eyes. The current Black Widow Natasha Romanoff is just a job hopping for their SHIELD. Even if it's been a few years. Above Nick Fury is the king of agents. He will never fully trust anyone else. He will be suspicious of everyone. Even Natasha Romanoff. Phil Coulson is worthy of being a good helper to Nick Fury, and immediately nodded in agreement. Braised eggs, let him go east. He will never go west. The old author has a new book, and there are a lot of manuscripts, and it is guaranteed not to be supervised. Ask for flowers, ask for evaluation tickets, ask for monthly tickets, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 24. Tony started designing mecha. By accident, Natasha Romanoff brushed past Bai Xi's news again. At the moment she was staring at the screen in front of her. Don't know where that crazy big guy went. The horror of the Hulk. They all felt it. General Ross's forces were completely unable to stop him, allowing him to escape, and could not be traced. Mission failed. Natasha Romanoff took off the headphones. What did Fury say? He was in New York. Kim caused a blackout across the city. A gangster can't solve it. Natasha Romanoff shrugged. Do you need me to fix it? It has been solved. You have a new task, and you don't need to go back to New York for the time being. Okay. Then, it's about your sister, Yelena. After leaving the building, Spider-Gwen parted ways with Bai Xi directly. She doesn't want us to know her true identity. Lana saw what she was thinking. Definitely, she's smarter than you. I'm really afraid of being assassinated at any time. Bai Xi complained about Lana. Lana, like Magneto, is not afraid of revenge at all. There is no disguise at all, and it is extremely arrogant and domineering. Can't you learn from your grandpa? Be cautious. Lana definitely didn't listen, but instead retorted, I don't want to wear a hood. How uncomfortable. If they have the ability, they will come and kill me. Lana is like saying, who dares to kill me? Let's go home first. Bai Xi said helplessly. Confidence is a good thing, but Lana is getting more and more confident. This evening, Bai Xi was still very happy. He experimented with his ability. The mirror space just copied from Ancient One is really useful, and the heat sight. According to the system's settings, as long as the full strength is not erupted, the concealment is successful. Therefore, Bai Xi can still fight. After all, it is impossible to build a car behind closed doors. If there is no actual combat, no matter how strong the ability is, it will be false. After a fight, Lana was clearly hungry. So I didn't sleep. I went directly to the kitchen to ping pong. Now the kitchen they use is all sterling silver, which Lana can control at will. While Bai Xi was waiting in the hall, he didn't expect Tony Stark to come first. Tony came in as if he had entered his own house. This carefree look is very genuine, and it will definitely make many people dislike it. But Bai Xi was used to it. Only Lana looked at him badly every time. Brother, why did you just hang up the phone? Tony still asked with concern. He didn't want his company's shareholders to be taken away for nothing, because those people are afraid. Bai Xi said with a smile, that's good, but you interrupted a genius design idea. How do you compensate? Tony asked directly with Erlang's legs crossed. What idea? Bai Xi asked casually. Tony is still a bit childish. Like, he likes to show off. Every time I find Bai Xi, I have to say which Hollywood star I have dated. Or maybe he has some genius idea. That is, he wants to be praised by others. I have to say, like a child. Mecha. Tony said very mysteriously. I've been working on a mecha design in the past few days. Jarvis scanned it and found it to be very maneuverable. Tony patted Bai Xi on the shoulder. So, do you know how much you have lost? If I can make it successfully, how many W can you earn? Yeah, I lost a lot, and you still don't compensate me? Bai Xi asked in an anti-guess manner. This made Tony stunned. How about I treat you to a cheeseburger roll afterwards? Tony generously showed Bai Xi the sketch of the unfinished mecha. If it's done, then Bai Xi will definitely not be able to see it. Don't doubt. Tony cares more about his technology than women. Women can share with you, but not these things. For example, Bai Xi knew that Tony got some artificial intelligence after Jarvis, but Bai Xi asked him for it, but he kept it hidden. It was later proved that when Tony became Iron Man, no one would want to get mechas from him. It's a compromise for the military, only for little Spider-Man. It's like a foster son. Bai Xi glanced at the sketch. Can't read, but now is not the time for Tony to become Iron Man. And there is still a lack of opportunity. So as he said, it was just a whim. For the current Tony, it's better to make matches than to make people. Isn't the female star fragrant? So, Bai Xi immediately laughed. I promise, you will throw this thing aside tomorrow. Tony blushed suddenly, holding his breath. Fuck, I've been working on this drawing for 2 days, so it's definitely not more than 3 days. Bai Xi patted him on the shoulder and said, I've never seen you last for more than 3 days, including women. That's because of my ability to solve all problems within 3 days. Tony spoke up. Bai Xi nodded in agreement. Tony can complete the modification of those weapons in minutes, and even upgrade. Darn. Lana then knocked on the kitchen door and said, Tony Stark, when are you leaving? Hey, won't you let me have a late night snack? Tony stood up and said, don't think about it. Lana said, not wanting to offend her. Tony walked away immediately. I hired a new assistant, and it seems like she hasn't gotten off work yet. Oh, her personality is really like a little pepper. Tony said and disappeared. Lana waved, and dishes flew out. Celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 25. Yelena, this is your only weakness. In the north, among the snow-capped mountains, there is a secret base of Leviathan. Men from SHIELD, led by Natasha Romanoff, captured the base point. Since leaving the Red House, Natasha Romanoff has been taking revenge on the group that terrified her. It is a pity that this organization has the full support of a big country after all, and it is not so easy to be destroyed. At the moment on the electrical pylon point, the two figures were staggered together, fists and feet added together. Boom, whoosh. Both Natasha Romanoff and Yelena's fist styles were clearly audible, and neither of them could help each other. Boom. Yelena put her hands on the iron and kicked Natasha Romanoff back a few meters. Natasha Romanoff crossed his hands to block, and his hands were a little numb. Yelena, come with me. Natasha Romanoff shouted at Yelena, her eyes turning red. She reached out a hand to Yelena, begging her to catch it. Unfortunately, Yelena just looked at her indifferently, unmoved at all. What are you doing with you? Join that useless game, Yelena asked indifferently. I have more important things to do. Hatred flashed in Yelena's eyes. She hates the Red House. She hates Dreykov. So instead of defecting like Natasha Romanoff, Yelena has been looking for an opportunity to destroy it. I know what you think, Yelena. We can be together. Natasha Romanoff continued. Yelena shook her head. You don't understand, Natasha Romanoff. You don't understand at all. Yelena kicked it again. Natasha Romanoff hurried to dodge, and a sweep kick knocked Yelena down. Yelena hurriedly hit a curb and continued to attack Natasha Romanoff. You don't know how scary he is because you escaped. I definitely know, so I'm going to kill him. Natasha Romanoff said bitterly. Stop dreaming. You're unreliable, Natasha Romanoff. Since childhood, you're not reliable at all. Yelena with braids hits Natasha Romanoff. This made Natasha Romanoff uncomfortable. But so what? This is her sister. You never care about these. You don't care about your family, me, and Uncle Bai Xi. You only care about yourself, you selfish person. Yelena pierced Natasha Romanoff's heart with a knife. Made Natasha Romanoff's eyes red. Enough. Natasha Romanoff yelled, and a whirlwind kicked Yelena's pretty face. Boom. Yelena fell heavily to the ground. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. It was already swollen. Yelena sneered. What? Did you speak to your mind? Do you think you know me well? Natasha Romanoff asked through gritted teeth. The snow blowing on her face made her feel cold. There was no love at all in that family back then. Otherwise, how could she and Yelena become like this? They were supposed to live happily in Ohio, go to school, get married and have kids, but now, it's all ruined. Is this Yelena's family? They made Natasha Romanoff dare not take the initiative to find Bai Xi, not knowing how he was, where he was, and what he had become. Then, you don't know me either, Yelena shouted at Natasha Romanoff. Yelena propped herself up and said another word to Natasha Romanoff. You're selfish, Natasha Romanoff, saying that she took a leap of faith and jumped to the snow below. Yelena is naturally not courting death. Natasha Romanoff rushed over and looked down. I saw a helicopter flying over. Yelena precisely grabbed the ladder of the helicopter in the air and climbed onto the helicopter after shaking for a while. Then Yelena turned her head and sneered at Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff watched Yelena's helicopter disappear into the snow, tears falling from the corners of her eyes unconsciously. She was holding the symbiotic charm that Bai Xi gave them at that time, and the at the moment symbiotic charm was still hot. And Yelena was sitting on the helicopter, holding the symbiotic charm expressionlessly. From that day on the plane, everything has been different. Yelena's memories began to emerge. After Natasha Romanoff's defection, there was a lot of buzz at the Red House. The best Black Widow that was just cultivated turned out to betray. It's like educating someone else. The Red House was naturally furious as Natasha Romanoff's younger sister. Yelena's fate can be imagined. And most importantly, Yelena was also known by Dreykov about her weakness. Yelena was called to the interrogation room by Dreykov alone, and pictures were placed in front of her. All are photos of Bai Xi. Dreykov said to Yelena like a devil, "Do you know him? Don't argue. She's your only weakness. Yelena, you're no worse than Natasha Romanoff, but she's better than you, because she doesn't have that weakness. If you dare to be like her, I'm sorry, the station is absolutely dead," Dreykov said, picked up the photos on the table directly and tore them into pieces one by one. Although Dreykov was just so threatening, Yelena knew that he would definitely do what he said. And maybe Bai Xi has already been controlled by him. At that time, Yelena went to see the old house and thought that Bai Xi had left, but now it seems that even if she was not caught, the Red House had an insight into her whereabouts. So Yelena didn't dare to be like Natasha Romanoff. Therefore, she would say that Natasha Romanoff is a selfish person. Yelena reached into the belt and took out a pasted photo. This photo was once torn to shreds. There is still no change in Bai Xi in the photo. Although this photo was taken at a distance, Yelena still looked at it carefully. She recalled the way she was picking up scraps of photos at Dreykov's feet, and Dreykov deliberately tore them up a little more. "Natasha Romanoff, I have more reasons to kill Dreykov than you," Yelena said in her heart. New books by old authors, countless manuscripts, asking for flowers, asking for evaluation tickets, asking for monthly tickets, celebrating the 7-day National Day holiday and reading books. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediately rush to recharge. Event time, October 1st to October 7th. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.